And just like a red, white, and blue phoenix rising from the ashes of political bipartisanship, let me make sure I'm recording. We are. And we're back to... No, we'll do another one.
Oh, damn it.
We're in talks with legislators on this now of a fund to help the people who do not get access to assistance now because they lack documents.
He broke the world record for the most pull-ups in 24 hours at one point. It's later been broken.
Cam Haynes' kid just broke that.
Yeah.
I'm the shit, America. Like, that's how they're all
living
gonna
in
go.
Cuba for the rest of my life. Bye.
Yeah, bye. Yep. Ghislaine Maxwell's still alive. I'm peacing out right now. I'm leaving. Anyway, so
welcome to the salt of the streets, coming at you every week with this food for thought. Hope you ready to eat. With everything going on in this nation, we need some information, and that's why salt need to be stationed in your rotation. With real talking, real topics, real people, real problems. Think we need some help to solve them, and leave it up to Colin and the Donovan, cause that's what's that? Let's get ready.
And just like a red, white, and blue phoenix rising from the ashes of political bipartisanship, we are back to Salt to the Streets podcast.
oh shit. This I was thinking about fucking dab pens and stuff. This is Saturday, July 25th, 1:33 p.m., episode 90.
And welcome back, everybody, to the Salt to the Streets podcast, your one and only source for social and political commentary on all the weekly news, pop culture, and sports that you can handle. And the best part about the whole deal, it's all built from the ground up for people like you and me, the everyday normal person. So come down and join us as we discuss life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and continue our endless efforts to bridge the gap between people and information. As always, we are your hosts. I am Colin.
I am Donovan.
And today we are joined by a very special guest, Brandon. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you.
For all of you audio listeners, he was taking a victory lap here. Welcome to the stadium. And coming up on this week's show, we're going to be talking a little bit about Brandon and who he is and what he did during the COVID shutdown. And we're going to get to know him as you guys get to know him a little bit.
It's going to get deep and then it's going to get dark is what it sounds like.
It is. We're going to get real deep in the beginning and then we're going to talk a little.
Good.
Definitely. Because darkness is reality sometimes.
Yes,
we need to think deeply to handle that darkness. See what we did
all
there?
Right.
See,
wow.
there it is.
All right. Well, we're fucking enlightened down here. Okay.
But yeah, we're going to talk about some COVID's updates, some kind of social unresty stuff. Probably talk about Portland a decent amount.
Yes.
There may or may not be some China talk, and then we'll talk about child trafficking. As, like we said, is going to get dark.
Yeah.
So we're going to try to talk about that situation and come at it as objectively as possible. Weed through some of the conspiracy and find out what we can find out.
So let me take this just for a second, right? Because, and I don't, not to like posture or anything, but like as somebody who has a kid, this is something I've been aware of for a very long time, but it obviously struck me in a different light when I had a child of my own. And there's so much stuff that is so easy to dismiss that I was able to, just willing to dismiss for so long as far as things that I was willing to write off as conspiracy theories that, and I talked about this a little bit in the pre-show that just over the last like month or so that I've been doing more research, trying to be more open-minded. I have found a lot of stuff that is incredibly disturbing, that I feel very strongly is the truth. And I just really wanted to talk about it because I think that people with children specifically who are writing these things off as conspiracy theories need to provide more credence to this. Because like that 1993 documentary or whatever, we watched, it can literally happen to anybody, any moment your child can be scooped up by NAMBLA, by some other group that wants to take advantage of you and your family.
The evolution of NAMBLA.
So that type of stuff happens, it's not just poor people. It's not just whatever whose children get taken. It can literally happen to anybody at any time. And so I just really want people to be aware of what's going on, so that they can try and just be more vigilant about it, So
it would never hurt as a parent, I feel, to be, just keep an eye on your kids.
Yeah, just be aware of
an
what
extra eye on them.
Yeah, definitely it wouldn't hurt.
But there's some powerful people out there, you know,
Right.
that want to do some very bad things.
And that's exactly what we're going to end up getting into. So, with that, I think that we can.
As Colin puts eye drops in.
Yes.
My contacts started to fucking freak out on me.
Yes. Wait. I knew there was something I want to talk about. There's one thing I want to start with, right? Okay. And we're going to end up talking about this more probably on our social media as things develop and people get more pissed off about it, but things are crazy right now. So, you're going to be able to find that. My Twitter is at Salt of the Street, and my Instagram is at alpaca_Donovan, and Colin is at Big Bird Offie on both of those things. Brandon is at BG3Es. ZUS. God damn it. I was so stuck on the 3 E's. Yes. On Instagram, Twitter, all the shit, right?
Yes,
and on Twitch.
And on Twitch.
So there you go. So you will be able to find all these things. We are also going to link back to all of your social medias, your Twitch and everything on all the posts on Monday. So
cool.
You guys will be able to find that there if you are not able to track, whatever the fuck. Anyway, so Nick Sandman. Right? You see the story about Nick Sandman? You know who Nick Sandman is?
No idea.
Nick Sandman?
Is that Lonely
He's
Island?
a young man. No! Oh,
okay.
Colin.
Oh, Colin.
Colin. Oh, no, he knows. He just doesn't know. So, Nick Sandman is the young man who went to Covington High School.
Yep.
Covington High School. And he went on a field trip with his high school to Washington, D.C., right? And there was a protest at the same time, Native Americans and stuff like that. And so he was in there with the MAGA hat on and the Native American guys banging
I'll show you a picture.
I know what I'm talking about?
I know what you're talking about. Yep.
So, when that happened, obviously, he was just all over the media, all over everything. Yeah. Just 2 days ago, maybe now, 2 days ago at the most, maybe even just yesterday.
Yeah, I think just yesterday.
Yesterday, he was awarded a $250 settlement, $250 million settlement with CNN.
Remember that picture?
Yeah, I remember that.
Yes.
Yeah.
$250 for defamation.
Dude, I thought you were going to say he was murdered.
No. CNN has to pay him $250 million because
they made so much money off that face.
And they defamed him. Yeah, they lied about him for weeks.
What did they say?
They said that they were aggressing people, that, he's like a racist and all this shit that they were saying about antagonizing the situation. And then more video comes out that shows that there was the other people there antagonizing the situation, and he's just standing there the entire time. So yeah, $250 million.
Yeah, but I mean, okay. I don't think he deserves the money. That's a lot of fucking money.
Right.
But at the same time, like, when you look at the video, you're like, kind of looks disrespectful. Obviously it is, because it's an elder of a tribe, and that is a sacred fucking thing when you look at it from that type of perspective.
Yeah.
Like, you could see a lot of Native American people be like, they don't, I don't fuck with that type of stuff,
Well, the situation, I believe, is, like I said, is they were there on a field trip, and I don't... There was no act of aggression or anything on his part. They kind of came into contact with a protest that was already happening there.
Yeah, the Black Hebrew Israelites were out.
Yes.
And see, these guys were, they're high school kids from a Catholic school and all this stuff. So they get there, and then they're touring D.C. on a field trip. And, there's stands out there on the mall selling MAGA hats, and so a bunch of people go over and buy their MAGA hats, and they're walking around, and the Black Hebrew Israelites, there was a group of them there kind of causing problems, and just, yelling at people, and, calling people fucking slurs and shit like that. And But most of the stuff is kind of standard for their little activisty groups that go out. And then, so these kids are kind of there, and to kind of help push back, and this is all, if I'm recalling it correctly, it's been a while. We actually talked about it, I think, when it went down. But the group of kids start to sing like their school fight song or something like that to kind of like drown out the other, all the shit that's being kind of thrown at them. And eventually this Native American elder dude comes over to them and is getting all up in their face, like on purpose. And the narrative spin that came out right as soon as this happened, was blaming everything on the kid.
Yeah, and that's probably what I was speaking from. That perspective, because that's really what I saw.
I mean, it was pervasive.
I saw the little snippet clip probably.
Yeah, and so after that happened, a larger video came out that showed
the whole thing. It was like an hour and a half long.
Yeah, this whole situation,
and no one's gonna watch that. Like the Hillary Clinton emails, no one's gonna read them all.
Right.
Yeah. Once they started to it started to float around. People were like, "Oh, this is bullshit. This is not really what happened. This is technically fake news."
Yeah.
So they clipped it up so you can actually see the important part of it, and that started to make the rounds, and then some of the retractions started to come out and all that stuff, and then they just kind of moved on. But yeah, he won the defamation lawsuit.
Yeah, and obviously this has been going on for a while.
Yeah.
When did that video come out?
2 years ago. Got to be close to 2 years ago that happened.
And this, I haven't heard anything about this. And I
it's because CNN don't want to talk about that shit.
No one's gonna, until it happens and he gets the $250 million.
And he had a suit.
Like, you can't question that now at this point.
He had a suit going with the Washington Post and someone else too, and they got dismissed, but part of the Washington Post one got picked back up. So he has potentially more money coming from the Washington Post. For doing the same shit,
who owns
for
the Washington
lying.
Post, dude?
Jeff Bgeeezus.
Exactly. So it's like,
Bgeeezus.
So what are we gonna do there, dude?
Did you guys see?
How much money did he pay in taxes last year?
Do you guys see protesters / rioters, whatever you want to call them, outside of his house with a guillotine in Washington D.C.? Yeah. They built like a fake guillotine in front of his house.
What are you guys gonna do
in D.C.?
What are you trying to change there?
Nothing. There's just that'll probably be a theme to some of this stuff.
We'll talk about that when we get into Portland. So let's start with Rona, right? So it was in, we've talked about this like 1,000 fucking times, and I think that it was in February or March that things really got shut down, at least as far as states go. So let's start here. What do you do for work?
I work in a community clinic. I work in medical records.
Word.
Oh,
yes.
Word. So you stayed working this whole time, I assume.
Yes.
Word. And did you just stay on your regular schedule? Did you see an uptick in work, a decrease in hours? What was the...
See, the thing is, I was seeing everyone saying, oh, dude, they're so busy in the medical field, blah, 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 blah. Work slowed down so much.
Really?
So much. And it just recently started picking back up.
Do you transcribe medical records, or what do you...
send them back, process them,
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
People want to release, records somewhere.
Makes sense to me, though.
To and from different, facilities and stuff like that.
Because when all this stuff started to pop off, they started to, people quit going to the doctor. They quit going to the hospital.
I read in the Kitsap Sun, less people were going to the hospital, and this guy had a heart attack.
Yeah.
He didn't go to the hospital until a week after.
Well, and they also canceled, they stopped doing elective surgeries. There was a whole slew of medical procedures that stopped happening.
Yeah.
So that's going to cut a whole section of your work out.
That whole idea is
so
crazy.
Did that cut your hours back, or you just had less work while you were there?
Less work while I was there because everyone's, gets the 80 hours.
Yeah.
So...
Interesting.
It was just less busy. We were getting less work.
You're just kicking it more.
They actually made me do a different job for a little bit.
Really?
Yeah.
What were you doing in
I had to check temperatures.
Oh.
Temperature check.
Just in your office or at a hospital?
In my building.
Oh.
Every morning I had to check temperatures. And then now we have this kiosk where you walk up to it and it checks your temperature and it reads if you're not wearing a mask. It says, you're not wearing a mask.
No shit.
Put on a mask. I'm like, this thing is taking a picture of my face every day, dude.
That's creepy.
It's creepy.
What does this machine look like? I'm curious.
It looks like a little, when you're, like a self-service kiosk at anywhere, but it's like an iPad right here. And then when you, they have a sticker on the floor, stand here, look up to it, and then the camera starts activating, and then if you have a mask on, it says, you're good, your temperature. But dude, normally...
It takes your temperature too from there?
Yeah. Dude, every time my temperature's been 96. I would come straight into work and they'd take my temperature with the one the gun.
Yeah.
Dude, sometimes it would say low.
Whoa.
Because I just walk into work from outside, right?
Yeah.
And then it would be 92.
How do you feel about the iPad thing that you stand in front of every day?
I feel like it's not accurate.
I feel like it's not an accurate picture. Does it make you uncomfortable at all? Like you said, this thing is taking pictures of my face every day. Does that make you uncomfortable?
Dude, it's going to happen like this. Watch. you can't come into the store until you take your temperature, or you can't, do something. You can't walk into your apartment building until you take your temperature or something.
There are certainly a lot of people that are concerned about the potential of escalation, especially when vaccines come into play.
Exactly. Because who knows? They're like, you can't work here, do this, do that.
Have you seen the movie Contagion?
Yes.
Yes. And so eventually Matt Damon, everyone has bracelets that they have to wear. Yeah. Have you seen, and this is an actual real thing, so this is just a brief aside, and I actually learned about this on Louder with Crowder, of all places.
Hey, sometimes I love watching that guy, like, even though some of the things I'm like, okay, I think he's built the brand to where he's like, he has to be that.
Yeah.
He can't go against it, even if it's like something like deep down morally he doesn't agree with or something.
Yeah.
Like, have you seen that clip of him with Joe Rogan, kind of going at it about the weed thing?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Everyone's seen that.
It's like, bro,
and it's like you can see it at that point, like, he wouldn't talk about it, but he's still willing to defend it.
Yeah.
Even though he probably maybe smokes a joint or two, like every once in a while.
Could be. I wouldn't put it past him.
I wouldn't put it past him either, dude.
He seems like if he doesn't, he's just extremely stressed out. He seems like he's very tense as it is. I obviously have never met Steven Crowder as a man, but from the time that I've watched him on the internet, he seems like he just carries a lot of tension in his whole everything. There's a lot of...
Well, he started as a stand-up comedian, right?
I'm not saying it's not warranted, but I guess more what I'm saying is you should have a way to get rid of some of that. That would be nice. If you're going to be at that high of a level, you should have a way to... everyone should have a way, but especially if you're dealing with that much of it. So the thing I wanted to ask about that I saw on Steven Crowder, right, is he was talking about this article out of Scientific American that I have on my phone here. Invisible ink could reveal whether kids have been vaccinated or not. And so this is a thing that they stamp onto your child, potentially, right? But then tattoos them with invisible ink that can be read through a UV light so as to indicate whether or not they've received their vaccinations. So let me start here, right? Because we've talked about vaccinating your children, dozens of times on this show, probably. I'm 1,000% in favor of vaccinating your children because I think it's the right thing to do. There's a lot of diseases that don't exist today that don't need to exist because we have figured out how to handle it, right?
Polio.
This makes me slightly uncomfortable.
It's a little bar scanny.
Yeah.
Barcodey.
And then when people are talking about, like, the idea of a coronavirus vaccine. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, that's the whole thing is people at my work are even like, I just can't wait till the vaccine comes out. I'm like...
So you don't feel that way?
I don't feel that way.
Why? How do you feel about the vaccine?
I feel like...
The idea of a potential vaccine.
I feel like if you look into coronavirus, I guess, from what I've read, there's a lot of different coronaviruses. Can't it's like the flu. Last year, we got an email at my work saying the flu vaccine was only 10% effective.
Yep.
And if the coronavirus vaccine comes out, everyone's supposed to be vaccinated. You say could possibly contain something that could be traced on UV light, and you can't do certain things without.
Well, and this is something that's done afterwards. That's like you get the vaccination, and then this. I mean, I'm not to fearmonger, but it looked like a fucking chip. But it's like a thing that they stamp you with, post vaccination that leaves. It looks like a microchip.
Yeah.
But it's not because it's temporary. It's just a stamp.
Just has a serial number.
It doesn't fucking just not a big deal. Yeah,
still very uncomfortable with.
Colin, where are you at with the idea of a vaccine? Because they're so sorry, not to interrupt you, but because they're talking about one potentially as soon as November, and then there are other ones the beginning of next year, the end of next year. All these things. The first real cases of coronavirus in America started happening in like January, potentially December, right? That's the earliest we're seeing. So
there's that one speculated case out of California.
Yeah.
Right,
and so
we don't know.
Even then, from it being a real, like a big deal, shutdowns in February, March, like things like that, to November, a vaccine that they're putting into everybody in the country, potentially most people in the world.
Okay.
Right? Because that's what they're talking about is that in potentially November or potentially the beginning of next year. Where are you at with the idea of a vaccine maybe in November?
Okay, so I think a few caveats before I even give the opinion on it.
We're not doctors.
We're not, well, yeah, but I'm even on that aside, like in my thinking about it, I mean, I'm not opposed to taking the vaccination.
In November, if it comes out in November?
Yeah, I mean, nah.
If
I would
halfway
probably
through November, they're
give it
like,
a
we
minute.
literally have enough for everybody in the country. All you got to do is go down to your doctor and get it. Are you going to go and get it? Or how do you feel about that?
I'll probably wait till next season. You know what I mean? It's the same thing. Like, I've taken flu shots a lot. And
Same.
sometimes...
I have to get them every year at my work.
Yeah. And sometimes because the flu changes every year, and they try to do what they can to interpolate, and then as soon as the first cases start to come out, they do what they can to change it, and then they put the vaccine out. And sometimes it may change halfway through a season. I've seen that. But with varying degrees of effectiveness, I just don't necessarily think at the beginning of this, we'll have to look and see, but it's not a vaccine like we fuck with now. It's not a flu vaccine. You know, there's been a lot of comparisons about COVID and the flu, and the two are categorically different. One is a flu, one is a coronavirus, right?
Yeah.
I have a hard time grasping the concept that for hundreds of years since we invented modern medicine, we have been trying to find a cure for the common cold, which is a coronavirus, and we've never been able to find a vaccine for it, right?
Well,
what makes us think that maybe because it's
now
so
in 11 months we've been able to...
It might be something like a pharmaceutical space race.
We've
the
already
entire
seen that.
world is looking into it, obviously, right?
There's 2 different strands of it already, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, I would think
There's like 4, I think.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I mean, it's already evolving in different... Because your
Right,
body is going to be different than my body. It's going to have to attack me a different way. I'm going to spread it to you, and then it's going to find a way to manipulate your
if it
immune
doesn't
system.
mutate in some tiny fashion every time it spreads, then it is going to die.
Yeah.
It would be easier to create a vaccine. So, but let me just put it this way: I don't necessarily think that people's hope that a vaccine will be this cure-all, and that's the way to do it. It's not going to go away when we have a vaccine. It'll be like a flu virus, where if nobody takes the flu shot, an extra 50 to 60,000 people die that year. If everybody takes the flu shot, those people may or may not die, depending on the virulent strain that year and how close the vaccination is. So, if we can do things now by boosting our immune system and doing stuff like that, like I've been taking vitamin D now on the reg, all these different things, and if
Mad D, bro.
Yeah, and if that can help prevent you from getting the coronavirus now without a vaccine,
Should do that.
Yeah,
Or
I just don't
even if
see
you
it as
get
this golden
you'll
bullet
be,
thing.
Okay.
Better
after.
off, yeah.
And because it's shown that, 390 something people got it in one meat plan, they were all asymptomatic?
Mm-hmm.
Like, come on, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't
we could all
think...
have it and not even know.
Like, I might
at
fuck
the
with the
same
vaccine.
time-
Depends on what the landscape looks like at the time. I don't distrust the FDA and stuff enough to assume that it might kill a bunch of people.
Yeah.
But then again, we have been putting the rush on this, so I'm not as eager to get it. But at the same time, I don't see the vaccine as a silver bullet that's going to solve the fucking problem instantly. I think that's an ignorant way of thinking. So relying on a vaccine to come out before anything happens, So to answer your question, I will fuck with the vaccine, but it's probably not the first round.
So let me put it like this, right? Because I feel the same way for a different reason, right?
Mm-hmm.
My concern with the vaccine is not that it won't work, and not that a bunch of people will die from it, but the reason that I feel comfortable trusting the vaccines that I allowed to be injected in my child, up to now, because he just went on Wednesday, got more, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that these ones have been tested for fucking decades now.
Yeah.
We know that only X percentage of people have problems with these vaccines that, we give to people. I don't have any way to know what the long-term effects are of this coronavirus vaccine that you're cooking up, because it's only been fucking 11 months that you've been doing this, and it's only been 6 weeks that you've been putting it in human beings. So I don't, that's my hesitation is how do I know that my dick isn't going to fall off a year after I get this injection? I don't know that.
Exactly.
I don't, that's, an extreme, like a joking, whatever, and that's, so obviously that's not my specific concern, but I don't know that there isn't going to be a terrible, terrible long-term effect from this because it's fucking brand new. So I don't...
And nobody will until it happens.
And that's why the idea of this invisible ink thing is so concerning to me I don't know, I'd hate to be the guy that's like, I'm not going to do it because of personal liberties, but I would like some more evidence that that's really going to work. That it's going to work and that it's not going to do bad shit afterwards because I don't know. I'm a big believer in science, man. Huge believer in science and medicine, but I don't, because we can test it over and over and over and over again. And I don't care how many people you give it to, over the next 8 months. What about 10 fucking years from now? That's what I want to know, So that's my big concern is a long-term thing that we have not been able to test for that they're going to expect people to get, in this huge push like open schools and shit, this invisible ink fucking nonsense. I'm not going to put something in my kid that I haven't been able to see long evidence from because if I die 10 years from now, at least I've had, 25 years, 35 years at that point of like life. Dax is 1.5 years old. Yeah. I'm not okay with him having 11.5 years of life and then dying because he was forced to have a coronavirus vaccine before he could go to the fucking park or go and come and see me at work or something. I'm not okay with that. Like that's what I'm uncomfortable with.
Yeah, that right there. Like I could see two different worlds. One is a little bit more of a reach for me, but I think I can see a world in which they try to make it mandatory to start reopening society. Right. Then I will have a completely different fundamental opposition against it.
So that's the world I'm basically living in. My world is...
That's true.
I don't know how this virus came to be.
Right.
Where do they say it came from? Oh, Wuhan, China, next to this wet market, which they say... The documentary you sent me a while back of how at 15 cases in China, at least they weren't traced back to that wet market.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and there's that, what is that? Biochemical or
the biolab in
Wuhan.
Yeah.
That is 100% not a conspiracy theory.
But it does exist.
But it's a very, very big coincidence.
Yes.
That China was going through such a terrible time in that moment where they couldn't control the people. They were filling up airports. You couldn't go in a train station because there was thousands of people.
Yeah.
They were shutting it down. They were shutting China down.
Oh, yeah.
They were carrying American flags saying, we want democracy. You know what I mean?
Well, and you, to speak to the vaccine point, because you work in the medical community, are kind of on the front end of that. That if something like that comes out, they're going to be like, fucking roll up your sleeve. It's time to get shot. So,
and I've had the thoughts of possibly quitting my job for that because I don't. To me, it's like I already get the flu shot every year.
Yeah,
I'm not an anti-vaxxer by any means. I believe it stopped a lot of stuff that's
polio and shit.
All measles.
Polio's my big one.
But
measles.
I don't also agree with if I had a kid, I wouldn't want to be getting like fucking 6-7 vaccines at once. And it's like
three at the most. Just it happens. Just not to interrupt you, but just for ease of mind, it's because I had a big concern, and when Dax was born, I had several conversations with his pediatrician about vaccines, about scheduling, about all kinds of stuff. Because I was pretty adamant that I want to do them one at a time, space them out, all this stuff. Several conversations. Dr. Chow, super great lady. Several conversations with her about vaccines and the way that they're tested and the way that they're done, and a lot of the stuff now. Not a lot of them, but one of them is an oral. It's just like a liquid that they drink. That's that's pertussis, I think, is one of those ones. But I don't want to speak to that. But one of them is one that they just drink, and then one of them is like an aerosol or something like that they do. No, they're just a couple of different drinks, right? And they're.
It's just the one was a drink, and then.
But he got it more than once. Though the drink one, he got more than once. Yeah. But he hasn't got more than 3 shots at any one appointment.
Yeah.
They space them out, they do and all the ones that they get collectively are tested together.
Yeah.
They are tested that way, administered together. That's one of the big, like, anti-vax arguments, even from that fucking chiropractor, you know, that, like, it's like, oh, well, they've never done all these tests together. And the pediatrician who I bring my child to, whose job it is to research vaccines on children, not adjust people's fucking bodies. Anyway, she's like, no, but we've done numerous studies on these things together, because why, if we're going to put them in children, we're absolutely going to see how they work together, you know?
Yeah. Well, you know, I spend so much time on YouTube, and just, you know, you can find a lot of stuff out there.
Can be good and bad.
Yeah. And, like, people get vaccines, and 2 or 3 days later, their kid, you know, can't talk anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, that just, everybody's body's different.
Yeah.
So I get, you know, anyone can have a different reaction, but then there's videos, you know, showing of, you know, some type of cover-ups. You have to look into it, you know. Eddie Bravo, look into it.
Eddie Bravo, look into it.
Yeah, look into it.
Yeah.
But, like, you know, there's stuff out there that could look kind of sketchy, you know, when it comes to vaccination.
Well, there is an American vaccination compensation fund, you know, that it's not widely discussed, because obviously we, as a country, don't want to talk about children dying for the larger idea of a greater good of people not getting sick as a whole. But for the same reason you said, that everybody's bodies are different, you know, there are a certain amount of people that react poorly and can die, can become disabled. And that's why that fund exists, that just from sheer scientific advancement, you know, there are going to be things that don't fit into the mean. And there's a lot of people that use that as, and I'm not saying that you're doing this, but there's, especially in the anti-vax community, a lot of people that use that as a sticking point. Like, why does this exist if they're so safe? You know, it's like, well, because you can't control for every single person on the planet.
Yeah, exactly.
There are going to be people that, you know, get a endoscopy or some shit like that, and they fucking die afterwards. You know, like, they're like, things like that happen all the time.
Yeah, there's going to be people that are 7'5".
There are people that hit their, you know, get punched in the face, fall, hit their head, and they die. Like, you know, those things happen.
I've had a friend actually, rest in peace. He riding a bike, fell, hit a tree stump, and passed away.
Really?
Yeah. You might have known him.
Jesus, man. It can happen like just that quick.
Yeah.
It's fucking wild.
Yeah.
It's one of those, love who you have while you have them, because you never know when they're going to be gone.
Yeah. And that's the thing with me. I'm trying to get in the ring and fight and do some kickboxing myself, because I've been doing it a while, and I've just been itching for that competitiveness again.
We will cover the fuck out of those fights.
Hard, yeah.
We will Salt of the Streets cover the fuck out of those fights.
Yeah, dude, I'm trying to get someone to record them or like Twitch stream.
Oh, we'll totally do that.
Oh, yeah,
from
man.
the fight. Yeah.
We'll totally do that.
That'd be so sweet.
You guys commentate it?
Oh, don't even worry about it.
Let's go.
Don't even worry about it. We got these lapel mics, bro. We got the whole... Yeah, no, we got it.
It's just like coronavirus puts all amateur athletics on hold.
We have that fucking... You have the one that hooks into the phone, and we can take the video, and we can,
I had a fight scheduled in March.
You get the fight scheduled, we'll be there.
Oh, yeah.
We'll live stream it. Well, don't worry about that.
So dope.
We'll have multiple streams going. That'll be. We'll promote that shit. Salt of the Streets promotions, bro. I mean, that's we can only do so much for you, but
all the Salt of the Streets banner hanging,
bro. We got some vinyl stickers. we got cricket machines. Well, if you got shorts, we can put a Salt of the Streets on your shorts, bro. We can do. We got all.
Yeah, we could, because
we can do that, bro.
Yeah, my dad makes.
Yep, there it is. Now all of a sudden we're fight managers.
Exactly. We can do that, bro. We'll get you the image.
Dude,
that's
and then peewee football too, you know?
Absolutely, bro.
Fuck yeah.
Absolutely.
I would love to get into that. Just for one, I would like to go observe y'all people that actually know about football and have played football, like what it takes to actually coach football.
Yeah, it's different,
especially
man.
the kids.
And I started in D string, so they're 6 and 7, and it's more like a daycare. Parents drop their kids off. I'm there for an hour and a half, 2 hours, watching their kids,
just
trying to get them to pick and grass.
Right.
And then you think about football, right? You think about football. Quarterback drops back, pass. There's a peewee football. Not that.
Yeah.
It is not that. Peewee football is
right?
Peewee football is who can get to the edge faster.
Yeah.
Who can get to the edge faster.
Yes.
Once they get to that edge, it's over. It's all about pursuit angles on defense. And what I do is I run a very, 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 very different defense than any other peewee team. Every peewee team runs 5 down, two linebackers, you know? Mm-hmm. Stack the box. It's still stacked.
Yeah.
They can still, do some blitzes. But what I run is I run a 3-3. But then I have 2 adjusters. which is like a linebacker
Mhm.
hybrid.
And
Defensive back.
word, okay.
So I
Okay.
can send them on blitzes. So it's basically 3-3 and then 2 here on the edge.
Yeah.
And then a corner.
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
one safety because I protect that edge.
Yeah.
And then my
because they're
linemen-
rarely going to throw
Linemen
the ball.
have to be smart. Defensive linemen have to be smart.
Yeah.
Strong side, they go weak side. Linebackers go strong side gap.
Yeah.
If everyone does their job, all gaps are filled. The edges are covered by the adjusters. The adjusters have to be beasts, bro. Have to be beasts. They have to be
Quick.
Those are the guys
Quick
that
and
are
strong.
like, they're like your running backs.
Yeah.
And they can tackle and they want to hit.
Yes.
You know, because some guys don't want to hit. Some guys just want to run the ball. But some guys, you know,
Do
they
you
wanna
understand? Do you understand what he's talking about?
I don't understand the gaps, but I'll get there.
Oh,
Okay.
I
Yeah.
generally got
So,
this conversation.
Yes.
The strong gap, weak gap. I'm like, all right, I'm still there. I think.
Yeah,
I'll figure it out.
Each gap is labeled.
Yeah.
You know,
Mhm.
A gap, B gap, C gap.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so
Less pressure means a weak gap. More pressure means
there's
a
the strong
gap.
side and the weak side,
Yeah.
right? When you have a line, there's generally going to be, especially in professional football, a tight end is generally going to be lined up on one side.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
so
okay.
the side they're lined up on, that's the strong side because there's one more lineman there when the ball is snapped. Even if he comes off and goes out,
Yeah.
he's standing there when the ball is snapped.
It's more.
That's the strong side. The other side's the weak side. There's less people on it, right?
Odds are there's more options on the strong side than there are weak
So
side.
he's talking about having his linemen go to the weak side, so
Mhm.
his linebackers and the adjusters can go to the strong side. Applies more equal pressure and more time for the defense to the down lineman to get
Yeah.
in.
And especially when
Future
you're
lineman
thinking
coach.
peewee, I think
Future
that's-
lineman coach for Tristan Peewee.
Yeah, we're out here. Yeah, so just so everybody knows, because we came into this quick, not to interrupt you, just because
Yeah.
we came into this quick, you have been coaching Pee Wee football for Tracy and Pee Wee football for how many years now? This would have been the fifth
year, yeah.
right? And so you started, you had your own team that first year doing D-string, or were you assisting
Yes.
first
Yeah,
year?
no, it was my team. They asked me. I had no idea what I was getting into.
How did you get into this?
My Bree's dad works with,
Your girlfriend, Bree.
yes,
Just
and
for-
works with someone who ran the organization at the time. Asked me to coach, and I said, yeah. I had no idea. No
Yeah.
idea what I was getting into.
You just had played
Got in
football
there, dude.
before.
And at the time, I had kind of like lost my love for football because went and played 1 year in Chicago for a prep school, which is like you play 1 year football, you play all D2 schools,
Yeah.
you take college classes, get college credits, but you don't lose a freshman year of eligibility. So if you say I go to like community college, like,
You did that after high school?
I did that after high school for 1 year.
Really?
Yeah. Played 1 year in Chicago and it was an experience, man. It was
Yeah.
definitely an experience. Came back a different person.
Oh, I
Came
bet.
back looking at everything like, wow, like it's a different world, you know?
Yeah.
I feel like every city you go to or state, it's a different world. It's just a different
Yes,
world.
It totally
And people,
is.
if you haven't done that, you know, like you can't really like understand that. Like it's different.
It's true.
Just how different things are. But like it became a job, dude. It was just like football all day long. 7
Mhm.
o'clock, wake up, breakfast, 9 o'clock, weights, then come back, lunch, and then you get like 2 hours to chill, school, then film, then practice from like 8 to 10:30, and then bed checks at 11:30. Every single day. And, dude, they fed you right though. Like we went to the, like, all our coaches were former NFL players.
Really?
Yeah. So it's pretty sick. Our head coach blocked for guess who? Guess who in the Super Bowl?
Brady?
Brady in the Super Bowl. Yes, he would show up. He would back his
I figured it was a
big
safe
ass
bet.
Cadillac with huge rims, with his name and his number on the license plate. Walk out, bro, with no
Ring
shit.
first.
Dude, no shit. Ring on his finger and a pit bull.
Yes.
Swear to God. Swear,
That's awesome.
dude. And I hated it, bro. I hated it. And
A little too intense. Or
I definitely didn't start because, you know, there was some real nice, good players out there. Like, I'm telling you, some athletes. Some players that now play D1. I know a guy, like, we stayed in touch. He plays at University of Las Vegas, UNLV.
Oh, shit.
He's huge, dude. He's like 300 pounds. He benched 325 like 30 times.
Well, and most of those guys, just for people who don't watch football or anything, most of those guys that are going to go and play D1, they've been playing football for a long time.
And a lot of those players...
They decided a long time ago that's what they were going to try and do.
At that prep school, they were... A lot of the kids that got bad grades or got an injury their senior year, and they got their scholarships pulled, you know? So I had a kid he had a D1 scholarship at Syracuse, he had bad grades, flunked out, and then he got a scholarship pulled until he get his grades up. So this gave him an opportunity. Like, they train you for the ACT and all that stuff, but basically hated it. Started coaching football. Dude, it's a different feeling when you start teaching someone, right? Because you're looking at these kids and then you're talking about football terminology as if they have some kind of background knowledge.
Oh, yeah.
So you literally have to just go back to square one. Like, this is how you stand on the line.
Really?
And the reason why you stand on this line is because they're trying to tackle your brother down back there who's going to score for us on our team, you know? Mm-hmm. You got to instill that, like, family environment. You don't, like, tell them this is a family environment.
Right.
But they just know it is, you know?
I think we might have slightly touched on how I think important that is when it comes to stuff like football and stuff last episode.
Yes.
Because whether you call it like because it's like that family unit. It's you know it's what people think of when they think of as acting as a team.
Team sport. 100% team sport.
But there's like a feeling to that. It's not you can't just like play your shit and be like, well, yeah, I'm doing it for the team. It's like, well, no, you got to feel it. It has to be a part of you because you got to be thinking about that dude who's going to get his his head popped
and there's
off
plenty
if
of
you don't do
times
it.
where I'm sure you on the football field we've fought with other like the opposition because someone's bullying someone. I've gotten plenty of punches at the bottom of the pile,
Yeah, especially, what position did you play when you played in prep school? When you played in high school and prep school?
High school, I played running back, mostly fullback, and middle linebacker. In prep school, I just played middle linebacker. They just specialized one position. They gave me the option. I seen our running backs. I was like, I'm gonna play linebacker.
Yeah. and so
I'm not gonna get no playing time.
So from playing linebacker that once if you're blitzing, if you get it on the line, there's a lot of dirty shit that happens there that you don't see, on TV or from the stands or anything like that. There's just a lot. Fast.
Well,
it's dudes right pressed up against each other. So there is enough room for you to see what's happening, So there's
you gotta be real nice on the line. A lot of hand fighting. Mm-hmm. It's a ton of hand fighting. That's why they come out with bloody knuckles because they're punching each other in these pads, their helmets. In college, in high school, you see like one really good lineman every game. In college, every lineman is good. Ooh. They're all recruited as good players to play. So they're all tall, 250 pounds, fast, strong, and they can they learn how to hold in a way that it's, not...
They learn what they can get away with.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You're taught to hold in a certain way.
Yeah.
So that especially you don't get the holding call.
Yes.
Inside the pads. And like the one thing that I remember, I'll always remember from transitioning, because I played offensive lineman at first, like the first year that I played, and then just switched to defense, and
which is way more fun.
Way more fun. I much prefer. But I remember specifically being taught, like, if you can get your hands on the bottom of someone's shoulder pads and push them up into their neck, it pushes their head up and it's in their neck. They can't breathe, they can't see shit, they can't do nothing.
Wherever the head goes, body goes.
Oh yeah, and so you can do that and you can just shove them to the side. It's that easy. And that's even if that person's bigger than you, if they can't breathe and they can't see, they cannot do anything.
And also you can take a second here, see where the ball's going, and then make your play, because you gotta, sometimes it's...
And it's that type of shit that you learn about. So you're
coming in like with your hands, but if you do that, you kind of can get like a little edge going on.
Exactly. That's and so you want the trick is to be the lower man. Yeah.
Lower man wins every time.
Always want to be lower man.
I can't do that. I'm too big.
Yeah. Well, and so I was taught James Jones. Do you remember James Jones?
I've heard of him. I never played with him.
Yeah, he was 1 year or 2 years older than me, and he played the same position that I did, and he worked from a 4-point stance, and so he had both of his hands on the ground because he was super tall. He was like, he was like 6'4". I mean, he was a big dude. And so in order to get lower, he would just 4-point stance, and he would just be as low as possible and push himself up off the ground and then throw his hands straight up. Nasty.
Launch,
he was savage. Yeah. He was an enormous dude too. He was stacked.
So that's good. So there's technique you can do to 100%. Change up the game. Okay.
Yeah, there are things you can do to operate within the rules that are also a little bit fucked up, a little bit dirty, because it hinders the other player from being able to effectively do anything, but it's 100% legitimate. It's
totally not my fault.
You just got to get to it before they can do whatever they're trying to do.
Football is a clean game.
Yeah, right.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's awesome.
You just got to,
It's a lot of stuff that you learn.
Yeah.
So what did you... So you said that football's canceled this year.
Yes,
right?
sir.
Because I just started talking to you in the off season from last year about trying to get on with you this year. So what do you think you're going to miss the most from this? Because it sounds like, and not to assume too much, but it sounds like as far as work and stuff like that, most of your life didn't change over the shutdown.
No,
you know, you
not
just
really.
kind of, is that the biggest thing you think that changes, that football isn't going to happen anymore?
Yeah, because football, it's become such a big part of my life. Like, it's 24/7 all I think about. And I think I'll mostly miss the kids, you know, because a lot of these kids I've been coaching since they were 6 years old.
Right.
So it's like I'm their first football coach. They know how I am when I step on the field first day of practice. And like new kids automatically know what's going on because they see the other kids, you know? And we function as a team, and everyone buys into like the philosophy that we try to bring. You just have pride in, you know, who you're playing for, because Trayston's never been the best team in the league. Like, and there's a lot of history behind it.
Tracyton, just not to interrupt, just so people know, because some people are local, some people are not. Tracyton is a small, like a neighborhood almost in Bremerton. That, I mean, there's like, used to be an elementary school in there. That part of the building still exists, but it's been since closed. And
torn down.
Yeah. And so it's just a community there. You know, there's a bar that's down there. It's like down by the water. There's a gas station down there. There's a post office there. It's just a small community, a Montessori school that's still there. And it's kind of in between like high schools and stuff like that. So,
but back in like the 80s and like 90s and stuff, it was a good peewee organization, and they had the boundaries were set to where it was kind of more equal than it is today. Where we recruit kids is basically they can choose if they want to go to North Perry or Tracyton on certain neighborhoods in the boundaries. It's because Tracyton went out. There was no Tracyton organization. It was then revived, and they had to fight for boundaries. So when I go look at the map and see what not East Bremerton, because you remember East Bremerton, right?
Yeah.
They went away, and that became North Perry's boundaries. They just took over those boundaries.
Really?
So Trayston has this small place, and then North Perry has like everything on Illahee. It's crazy.
Oh, wow.
It's crazy.
Really?
And they have twice as many kids as us.
Yeah.
But I will say they have some damn good coaches too.
So you have to like, you have to almost try and poach kids away from North.
Yeah. And then automatically they look at me. They see I'm the younger coach. Every single time I go up to the ref, there's an older guy, a parent that coaches with us. They always think he's the head coach.
Yeah.
You know? And then they're like, oh, he's the head coach. So I walk up and they're like, oh. But now the refs kind of know me. They've seen me over the years.
Yeah, 4 years in.
Yeah, they're more comfortable with me. I go to all the meetings, ask a ton of questions. And
so this is a rec league? So
it's just
is that what that is?
Yeah, Pee-wee rec league.
Peewee, yeah. And
they only have school football, junior high
stuff, you know.
Okay, so there's nothing like in the rules or anything where if you live there, you have to be a part of the North Perry Rec League? Or does it just, you can go, let's say we lived in the North Perry district, right? But I wanted to get my kids over to Tracyton to play in that rec league.
There's certain boundaries where if you live in this neighborhood, you have to play for that team unless they give you a waiver, and then you can play for another team. So that weird. Organization would have to give you a waiver. But there are certain lines, like I've had kids come to my practice and say, my neighbor plays for North Perry. Like literally the kid next door to him plays for North Perry. And people can do these things where they do fake addresses and stuff like that because it happens. But
and it's Pee-wee sports, so it's not like people are not diligently looking at.
And the beautiful thing about Bremerton is the Navy shipyard. Yeah, we get in new kids every year. Every year I see a new kid that's like from the Navy, so like that's pretty great. I think that like they have no background knowledge of like a lot of kids will just go to North Perry just to win. Like, but you're not gonna play. You're not gonna like.
You're just gonna watch.
Yeah. You're not gonna have like the best time. Yeah.
So a lot of kids like, especially there's a lot of people, but kids especially that like they're good with that. They're just like, that's fine. I just want to,
Dude, and I think I'm not trying to talk bad about North Perry, but I coach for Tracyton.
Fuck North Perry.
No, like
I'll say it for you. I'm just kidding.
No, that's what I want. That's what I want to say on the inside. But like it's Pee-wee football, so you can't get like emotionally crazy involved. But like I see how it is. Sometimes the calls go their ways, man. I'm not gonna say like
Oh yeah.
they don't. Sometimes it's just a little sketchy, man. Like,
And so is it
In the
all
games.
of Pee Wee football that is not happening this year, or just Traceton Pee Wee football?
no, all Pee Wee football.
All Pee Wee
Yeah.
football.
So basically, the whole city council came together, and that's the board of the whole organization, or like all the
Yeah.
whole league, and they canceled it, possibly rescheduling it to spring, but as of right now, no.
That's so weird. I was just trying to figure out like the organizational structure of what a rec league management might look like. It's like,
Yeah.
Oh, they meet all the time. Yeah.
that's so wild.
Well, there's even like the boys at work.
Tons of drama too. Like if parents,
Oh,
parents
yeah.
go crazy and stuff, like
oh, I'm sure.
they'll have to.
Yeah.
PTA 2.0.
Like there's certain rules. People can't be on the stands, and there's a friend of ours that came to one of our games last year, and our playoff game, he got kicked out because he was like screaming some stuff.
Oh, little rowdy.
You know who he is?
I don't know. We
Slim.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So the refs were kind of fucking us, man.
Yeah.
Right?
Like,
And
is that
Chad,
good?
Chad
Do I
over
need
here,
to-
he's like.
Chad he plays fantasy football.
He's like Seahawks.
Oh,
he's like Super Bowl, whatever that Seahawks Super Bowl where they
Yeah.
got blown up, or the Steelers, right?
yeah.
The bad call, and then he said, "Meet me in the parking lot," and the ref stopped the game. I didn't hear it, and then he got kicked out. They had to escort him out, and they wouldn't start the game.
He would totally do that.
I'm telling you.
I
and
do
then
not
and
doubt
then
that at all.
and then the lady that runs the thing, she's like, asked him if he wanted to coach baseball.
Yes! That's awesome. I told him what we were going to be talking about this week, and he said he was going to be listening, so he's going to hear this story. And he's
Hell
going to be
yeah.
like, those fuckers. I can't wait
No,
for
it
him
was
to
awesome.
text me
It
and
was
be like,
awesome.
I
It was
remember that
awesome.
shit.
It was awesome.
That's hilarious.
That's funny. I love how you guys like
That's fantastic.
vicariously know certain people.
Yeah, we went to
Like
school
going
together.
way back.
Yeah.
I actually
You're
saw
only
worse.
a grade above.
Yeah. Oh shit! There was something else I was going to ask about
What?
Tracington.
Just kidding.
What? Just fucking out with it already.
Yeah. What's up?
No, rec league, sports, blah blah blah. No, it had something to do with shutting down. But like, I guess these kids that used to come play Pee Wee football, right? Like they're like you said, it's kind of daycare-ish at a certain level, but
At the
You
younger
know,
level, for sure.
yeah, I mean,
It gets
what
more
kind of
competitive.
what kind of like damage do you think these kids are going to be missing out? Not like losing a year of football.
Oh, dude. I have this one kid who, I'm not going to say his name, but I first coached him.
Franklin.
I first coached him. Okay, so
His name is
Franklin,
Franklin.
2-3 years ago, my first year coaching him. I'm coaching with Nick Whiteside. He can attest to this story.
Good old Nick Whiteside.
And
Shout out Nick Whiteside.
he writes my offense every year. He's
That's fucking
an offensive
awesome.
genius. He lives in-
yeah.
He lives in Ellensburg, bro, and he
He's-
writes my offense every year. So
He's
we
great at
coached
football.
1 year together
Wow.
and became best friends. Like, who would ever thought, right? I just realized there's a gun right there.
Oh,
This is my everyday carry. Yeah.
But shit, where was I going?
Nick Whiteside.
Okay, so there's this kid,
Yes.
Franklin.
Franklin.
We're playing a game. I believe it's a big game. We're hyping him up, and he says, "Coach, all I see is red."
oh no!
And then I don't say anything, and he says, "I want to be covered in their blood." I'm like,
Whoa.
huh? And then, so this is his job at the beginning of every game, and his parents love it. Me and Nick's thoughts are he would be a serial killer if it wasn't for football. Like, he is wanting to hurt people. And he told me at the end of the year, he's like, I wish I could play football all year round. I was like, your body would be broken, dude. Your body would be broken. You can't do that to your body. One season's enough. And, sarcastically, he would be a serial killer.
Right.
But he has some where he has this drive to like do something. So the first play of every single game, hopefully nobody's watching this in other Pee Wee leagues.
Yeah, right.
Any
Now they're going to
Pee Wee
get the
teams.
inside secret.
But quarterback, first play, says down, set, hut, on set. He rams that center as hard as he can, and you take the 5-yard penalty. And the rest of the game, the center is like this. He's like this, dude. They mess up the next snap almost every single time. Every single time.
So genius.
First play. It's an intimidation
Man,
factor.
It's
dude.
worth the 5 yards.
It is worth the 5 yards.
Yeah,
It is
sounds
worth the
like
5 yards.
Franklin.
No, because
He's a little-
Franklin is a killer, dude. He has one speed, and that's full speed.
Just savage all the time.
Put him on kickoff. he's gonna lay someone on the back.
And so you think that this is a very valuable outlet for Franklin that he probably doesn't have at another place in his life.
Yeah.
For sure doesn't.
Some
He
people just
wrestled,
have
but
that.
like, I think sports, for me personally growing up, I learned way more about myself and like just what I'm capable of in sports than in school. In school,
Yes.
I felt like I wasn't good. You know, I barely graduated. I failed like algebra 2, both semesters.
Yeah.
Signed up for it my senior year. They put me in financial math. So it was like,
Financial math.
how much confidence did they have in me? But honestly, I wouldn't knock financial math because I learned a lot about real life finances.
Best class I ever took in high school.
Real life finances I learned about, and I was like, wow, this is like taxes and like different shit like that, how to save money. And I'm like,
Yeah, dude.
why is this an elective class?
Exactly.
I should have paid more attention to
I
business
needed a
math.
math credit, and that was like,
All those
well,
classes that are like,
that's an elective, but I'll
you know,
fucking
they
take
help
it.
you like do job interviews and all that stuff. Why don't we do that like mandatory? Because when you get out,
dude,
when you get out and you do your first job interview, you're fucking shaking in your boots,
Oh, yeah.
sweating your ass off, don't know what to wear.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
When I feel like they being like the school district, you know, the board of education are like, well, you do all these, you know, public speaking, like speeches in front of the class and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, that doesn't prepare you for a job interview. Like public speaking is not the same thing as
And it's mostly
talking to
bullshit. You're
somebody.
reading your whatever you wrote down off the PowerPoint.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not the same thing as being asked. Like when I got this last job,
You're not interested in it.
my boss asked me like, how much money do you think you should be making? And I was like,
That's an interesting question, boss.
yeah, I was like, I don't know. I was like,
How much do you think I should be making?
That's I was like, no one has ever asked me how much money I think my time is worth.
Yeah.
You know? So I was like, I don't know. I was like, I'm making, you know, this much now. I was like, I definitely think I should make more than that. I was like, but I don't know, like exactly what amount of money I think I should be making.
And I like that question though, because it
It's
makes
a great
it makes you
question.
think about your worth. You know? How much do you
Exactly.
think you are worth?
Exactly.
Because a lot of people don't think about that. Sit down and say, am I making my dreams come true? Or am I making this guy's great dream come true? You know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
at the end of the day, are you happy with yourself? Are you doing what is fulfilling to your self-worth?
Right.
Because whatever, you may not pay attention to it, but there's still lingering thoughts in the back of your head. Like, am I really living up to myself? When I die, is God going to be like, you could have done this, you could have done that?
Yeah.
Like David Goggins always says, like, imagine God
Goggins.
in heaven says, when you go to heaven, you could have been this, you could have been that, you could have been a Navy SEAL, but instead you were an exterminator your whole life. That was his story because he was a Navy SEAL and all this shit, but
Yeah.
he didn't believe in himself or he was scared a lot of the times. Like, if you read his book, he had a fucked up childhood life, like, growing up. But, like, you know, just the fact that he wanted to change, he wanted to do these things, it's like he knew what he was worth.
Yeah.
He knew what he was capable
Oh, yeah.
of.
Yeah, he's got that newer book that just came out, right?
Yeah, can't
Yeah.
hurt me, dude. It's a fucking... I suggest the audiobook because what they do is they read it and then in between chapters they do like a podcast style talk, him and the whoever reads it, but he also helped write the book.
Really?
Because David
Cool.
Goggins he's not a writer.
Yeah.
So he had some like real good book writer come help with him.
Interesting.
They became
That's awesome.
buddies and they
Yeah.
do little challenges in between. Like, I challenge you this chapter, you know, do this. Like, a lot of good shit from that guy. Like, he's really motivated me in my fucking life. I would say so.
I've heard one of my other coworkers has also listened to that book, and he said the same thing, that it's just very motivational. And
Yeah.
that he said he'll listen to it a lot when he's working out.
Even though if you listen to David Goggins, he says motivation's shit. He says motivation's shit. You get motivated, you go for a run. The next day it's cold, and then you're like, I don't want to go on a run.
Yeah.
You know, when he, you know, Jerry. Have you heard of Jerry Itzler? He was the owner of the Atlanta Hawks, or he is the owner of the Atlanta Hawks.
Yeah, okay.
His wife made Spanx, and he's just like
Really?
super rich family, right?
Yeah.
And
His wife
he
made
met
Spanx.
David Goggins at a yeah,
Yeah.
and he owns the Atlanta Hawks, so it's like they're not doing bad.
Yeah.
No.
David Goggins lived with Jerry Itzler for a month, and he said like one day it's freezing cold. A weather alert comes up, says blizzard warning, do not go outside. And he said David just goes, this is great. He's like, what? He's like, let's go for a run. He's like, David, they just said don't go outside. He's like,
Yeah.
this is perfect. Go for a run.
Yeah.
And then they go for the run. He comes back out. They come back from the run, like a 4-mile run. There's like a little lake area. It's frozen over. He said he fucking breaks a hole and he says, jump in. They both jump in. And then his wife comes out and says, what is the medical benefit of doing this? And he says, there is no medical benefit. Because I'm just seeing how far your husband is willing to go, you know, because he's about that callous in your mind through the pain.
Yeah.
Using that pain to get you through it.
Yeah.
Those negatives to positives.
Yeah, his episode, I heard him on Rogan. I think it must have been when the book came out.
Yeah.
That's why he was on there. But that was
He has
a great
two. He has two
episode.
podcasts on there.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought he seems so familiar.
Yeah, he's known Goggins for a while.
Yeah. He's a very interesting dude. I just added
Dude,
that
no,
last
I
name.
became
Yeah.
a fucking David Goggins fanatic. I went and watched his ultramarathon runs and shit. Like, fucking
Oh, he
beast.
does ultramarathons too?
He broke the world record for the most pull-ups in 24 hours at one point. It's later been broken since
Cam
then.
Haynes' kid just broke that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was helping train Cam Haynes.
Yes.
since then.
Yeah.
But he attempted it 3 times. The first time, his whole hand was ripped off basically from the calluses.
Oh, yeah.
Just ripped his hand off.
Ugh. Wow.
But he eventually did it.
That is so wild.
That
Fuck
guy's
that.
insane, bro.
So, before we kind of transition too far away from,
Yeah.
I wanted to bring up Franklin again, right?
Okay.
Because you do a little bit of fighting.
Yes.
Martial arts.
Yes,
We'll call
yes.
it martial arts because we're talking about a child. Do you think martial arts would be a good thing for Franklin to get into?
I think so, yeah, because it's definitely not as...
I think more discipline.
It's more disciplined because you're not going to be hitting each other really like that. You're going to be hitting pads,
Yeah.
but you still get to use that energy and exert it. And then at the end of the day, you know, you later on in life, you can build like more confidence in yourself. Like, you know, you don't want to fight ever. I would always suggest avoiding every fight. You win 100% of the fights you don't get in.
Yeah.
So like,
Definitely.
That is excellent advice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I hear Rogan talk a lot, especially specifically about like jujitsu and stuff.
Yeah.
It's like when he rolls with these people, it's like you guys are trying to fucking kill each other,
yeah,
but you know that no one's actually going to kill each other.
Yeah.
And it's like I start to think about that as for martial arts. It's like that's got to be for people that have a lot of energy or who have a lot of demons, or like if you get something about football, the violence of football speaks to you. Sounds like martial arts would probably be a really good outlet for that as well, because you can more or less do the acts that you do. If done with someone that's not trained to do that, you could fucking kill them, right? That's the whole concept about it. But for the most part, you're evenly matched, and then you have a nice big fight about it, and then it's all over.
Yeah.
And it might be a good way for Franklin to help do that. Although you can't really do that right now, anyways. I don't think. I think
it's
Yeah. Are you able to train right now? Is that
we're training right now.
you go?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll say commercial gyms probably are not necessarily open right now.
Yeah.
But you could train in a garage.
What Governor Inslee says right now at this point, if you do train in a martial arts gym, you got to be 6 feet apart.
Yep.
Can't touch each other.
Does that make sense?
Doesn't make sense.
At
But hey,
all.
guess what? Doesn't matter. You
can shadow box.
You can shadow box, dude. There's nothing you can do really
From across the room.
based off the rules.
That's one of those. We're not going to ban it. And maybe this is a decent time to transition about the stuff that's
Yeah. We
new
can talk
stuff,
about
but,
the local stuff.
like in this latest round of restrictions, there's a lot
Thursday
of things.
they happened.
Thursday.
Just so everyone is aware, on Thursday, just for the background, not to interrupt
That's
you,
when
but
the video came out.
Jay Inslee, yes, when he when he did his press conference was on Thursday and announced a new set of, we could call them rollbacks, new restrictions, on things that people can do because of the virus. And one of those things is like in gyms.
Yeah, gyms is great.
Because it depends on what phase you're in.
Yeah, I've seen people in gyms, huh? Lifting weights and shit.
So if you're in phase 2, you can only have 5 people in the gym plus whoever's working there.
Jesus Christ.
But if you're in phase 3, then you can have 25% capacity, which is probably fucking like in a bunch of places like 5 people anyway.
Yeah.
And then whoever is working there, and
So nobody can go to the gym.
pretty much. And
Wait, not line.
That's
line
like
out waiting
band
for
without
them
a
to get in the
band.
gym.
when Jordan asked, she was like, "What about like the YMCA?
It's
The
still closed.
YMCA, it's just straight up closed."
Yeah, I have through my
Really?
work, we get a free membership.
Oh,
It's closed, man.
really?
Been closed ever since. I'm trying to hit the sauna, dude.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
fucked
because you think about it, just because you can open doesn't mean an organization is going to open.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
Especially something like the YMCA, which is YMCA. They're publicly funded, right? Or are they run by charity?
I think they originally started as a Christian organization.
Yeah, so it's a charity organization, but I don't think they're publicly funded.
I'm pretty sure they're nonprofit.
Yeah.
But they would be a charity organization. They're like a 501c3 type of thing.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Don't think so. No, you're wrong. When they're teaching me about retirement funds, they're like, this is a 403b. I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? They're like, oh, that's just a tax code. I'm like, okay. Like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
What's the difference?
God,
What's a 401k and a 403b? They're both retirement funds, but the tax code's different, so some's fucking
Some's different. The fund's different. It's different.
It's different.
Restrictions on like when you can take money out, how much money you can take out.
They make that stuff
like
so complicated.
Yes.
On purpose.
So that you can't do it yourself.
Yes.
That's exactly why it's done that way.
That's why you get TurboTax.
Creating industries is all that they're doing. Let's just give a bunch of people a job.
Yep, that's what government jobs are.
Yep. More certifications, more jobs. Anyway, so the stuff about gyms, and then for like bars, you can't drink inside of a bar anymore. They can't serve alcohol in the bar, but they can have. They said they were going to make some way so that you can have like a beer garden outside. You know, if you have an outside area.
Pub?
Yes.
Yeah.
But so now you can't no inside alcohol service, and alcohol service has to stop at 10. If you're going to go to a restaurant,
that's when you go to the bar.
If you're going to go to a restaurant, you can only eat inside with people you live in the same house with.
Yes.
If you want to eat.
And you have to write your names down in case someone there has coronavirus.
No one has done that.
Still voluntary.
Yeah. And when we've been out to eat, and no one's asked us for that when we've gone.
We went to one winery when we were over in Chelan for 4th of July weekend that they had it totally optional, but you could put your name and phone number down on their contact tracing program.
Just in case.
But that was one
like
out of
which is a huge,
the 6 we went
like
to.
a safe thing to just like cover liability or something.
It's not a bad idea.
And it's like a reputation thing too, I feel like.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. And I think that an optional way, if you're a business, optional is probably the way to go. You know, it's here. If you want to put it down, then all good, but we're not going to ask you for it because.
And we're going to sell your information. Expect some junk emails.
Dude, that's fun.
Yes, you can only eat inside with people you live in the same house with. So if you want to go to dinner with your parents, you gotta eat outside. And there's like new, capacity restrictions.
Yeah. So and I don't know what this is about medium.com, but all the governors and stuff seem to have these things posted on Medium.
Why?
Right? I don't know.
Medium.
But from his Medium post.
Medium, like anyone can post on Medium. Why are they? I don't like that.
It's so weird. But the actual restaurants and bars slide that they like to talk about is indoor dining limited to household members. Alcohol sales must end at 10 p.m.
Yeah.
Table size reduced to 5 people and total occupancy of 50% capacity for those counties in phase 3. So if you're not in phase 3, it's still 5 a table. And then also only from your old household. Game areas are closed and
card rooms and all that stuff.
Yeah. And then bars will close indoor service, which essentially shuts down a lot of bars. But
they were asked about that most bars weren't because it's a different type of licensing. And they said they didn't explain, but he said they were going to looking to make some way that bars could do shit outside.
Yeah.
So,
and we'll see how that'll work because logistically it's going to be a lot harder for certain places to have outdoor.
Yeah.
I mean, and then what happens if it rains that day? Sorry, I guess we're basically closed today.
And there's some places that have like outdoor areas as it is, that you can take,
which is nice.
But there are other places that don't. If you want to go outside, you have to leave your drink there and go outside and smoke and then come back in. But there's one. It used to be the arena, and then it was Joey's Hangout, and now it's closed again. That had like a fat outdoor area with like a cornhole and fucking horseshoes and like all the shit, and like so that dude could have made a bunch of money probably just because he had a fat outdoor area.
Yeah.
But he's closed now because of fucking Rona.
Which sucks, man, because a lot of small businesses are taking...
I counted 3 driving through Bremerton yesterday. 3 closed businesses driving through Bremerton. The Napa across from Fred Meyer is closed. that's the only one that I can remember. But 2 other things that were closed driving through Bremerton that I was just like, the fuck, dude.
Yeah.
You know? But that's exactly how
That's
this
sad.
is. So,
Yeah.
and that was addressed, right? If we're going to be talking about James, then we need to talk about this little snippet, right? Is that he was asked about all of these businesses, you know, that are like struggling. And so Jay Inslee. During the press. Yeah, absolutely. During the presser was asked about the businesses that are struggling. And so the reporter said, you know, there are a lot of businesses that are already kind of on the edge as it is right now. And with these new restrictions there, I'm sure there's going to be some that close. And his response was, you know, like, we want to do something, but I really have to wait until Congress, like, does whatever they're going to do because, you know, they only gave us $100 million and I don't want to spend it in, you know, on day one. And I also don't want to spend it all on day 100. And so I don't want to get rid of it all and I don't know what to do. And so he said, you know, in the end, I need to wait for federal Congress to find out.
Yeah.
And then one of the very next questions was no. And that's been a huge cop-out for him this entire time. It's like, well, I got to wait for Congress. I have to wait for Congress. I need to see what, you know, what they're going to do. And then keeps talking about all these millions of dollars he has in this emergency fund just in case we need it. But I really want to wait for Congress, you know.
Well, the pattern to me seems as, like, whatever California does, Newsom does, 2 weeks later, Washington does it.
Yeah.
That's what it seems like to me.
Yeah.
It seems as if I see something happen in California, I'm like, oh, shit.
Well,
Here it
so
comes.
something that I think he seems to be leading the way on is one of the next questions was about a disparity of coronavirus cases in, like, the Hispanic community. And
because the total number of cases according to Washington, to our health department and stuff like that, let me go to that actual slide where they show the demographics. Oh, where'd you go?
Jeez, dude, you just...
Race and
fear on that
ethnicity. So,
I've been in the game for a long time.
out of the total confirmed cases we have,
Will you scoot in just a little bit?
50,824.
Oh, okay.
I mean, you guys can get real close if you want.
Just
no
for him to
judgment,
be
bro.
in frame. Well,
Dude,
we
can
could
I
be
sit
closer
on
to
his
it.
lap?
Yeah, exactly. So as of right now, Washington State, 50,824 confirmed cases, right? And of that, there are 34% of those cases that we know of do not have any kind of race or ethnicity statistic associated with it.
Sorry.
So of the remaining, God, you bunch of fucking stoners.
What percentage? I'm sorry. What percentage don't have any race statistics?
34%.
Don't have any race
Right.
statistics.
So then, of that, whatever that's going to be,
66.
66% remaining, 43% put down their race or ethnicity as Hispanic, right?
Hispanic
Versus-
or Latino?
no, it's just
Hispanic.
And then
What the
other
fuck?
ones would be non-Hispanic white, non-Hispanic black, non-Hispanic Asian, non-Hispanic Native Hawaiian or other Pacific Islander,
That's weird.
non-Hispanic other race, non-Hispanic multiracial, and non-Hispanic American Indian or Alaska Native.
Why
those
are
are the
those?
only-
That
that's just-
seems like a really weird way for all of that to be asked.
That's the way I see most race statistics on any
Wait, so
statewide
how
form
do they
these days.
take
So
this? How do they do this? The test?
It's when you get a coronavirus test and you test positive, then
Yeah.
they're asking you about your ethnicity, and
which
so
you don't
this
have
is-
to give. But
No, so
What do they
this
do?
is
So what's the...
So the question was from Univision, which is an Espanol news network, right? And the question was about the disparity and what are you going to do for, you know, these people? What are we going to do to help them? And so his response, do you have the whole question or like the whole response or what's the...
I could do the whole response was a little long, right?
Yeah.
Because he starts to talk about other things, but essentially maybe I should go back to the whole.
No, it's fine. So in his response, because he starts talking about, you know, people, these are the people that pick our food. These are people that do all this stuff. Even though he wasn't asked about illegal immigrants, all he was asked about is his Hispanic people.
Yes.
His immediate response is about people who pick our food and the people who do this shit. I'm pretty sure that Hispanic people do all kinds of jobs. I'm fucking Hispanic. I don't pick food. You know what I'm saying? So,
There's a lot of
odd that
Hispanics
that's the
in
first
Washington
place that
State.
he goes, but he's super PC. He's not racist at all, but that's the first thing he talks about is fucking people who pick food, right? Super weird. And then he starts talking about how he's going to, presumably because I don't know where else the money would come from, create a taxpayer funded
from the Congress.
fund of money that will be distributed to undocumented immigrants.
So we'll let his words kind of speak for themselves here. Hopefully you can hear it from here. If not, we'll go back over it.
We will be standing up. I hope to announce this fairly shortly. We're in talks with legislators on this now of a fund to help the people who do not get access to assistance now because they lack documents. These are people who are feeding us. These are people who have been denied immigration status by the total failure of Congress to pass comprehensive immigration reform. There are people who've been here for decades. So that's a package that we want to help these folks. We also have some of the things we've announced here, and the housing thing could help, because we want people to be able to isolate when they get symptoms and they're either positive or waiting for a test. We want them to be able to isolate. So that's why we're creating a fund that can be helpful in that regard, so that they won't transmit the disease to other.
So not only is it a taxpayer funded fund, right? I don't even know what else to call that, right? Approved by the legislature. His motivation is because of the lack of motion from Congress is why he's doing this, but he can't help small businesses because of the lack of motion from Congress.
Yeah.
So again, I'm Hispanic. My great-grandparents on my dad's side came here from Mexico. At least half of my grandparents came here from another country. I am 1,000% in favor of DACA. Colin and I have done entire episodes arguing about DACA, about the origins of it, about the legitimacy of it. I'm 1,000% in favor of total immigration reform in this country because the system is so fucked up, right? I am, however, not. I am stoutly not in favor of using my tax dollars, your tax dollars, their tax dollars to pay people who are undocumented here, who came here throughout the correct channels, right? When there are still people here who were born here and I'm not trying to make an argument about people who are born here are better. It's not about being better or anything like that. When you're talking about entitlements from the government that exists here, the people born here under those protections deserve those protections first, right? And you have people who are losing their businesses because Congress can't get their shit together. But because Congress can't get their shit together, we need to support people who were not born here. And I think that that's extremely wrong. And I don't think that...
I mean, let's not put it that way. Let's not say that weren't born here. Let's just say that aren't legal residents, or that are illegal
residency, yes. Right? Because you're right. The being born here has nothing to do with it. It's the legality of the immigration here that has to do with it, and it's not
because there's been some great immigrants that have come here and done some great things for America.
Oh yeah, right. So thank you. I'm not trying to, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, just see why.
You're right. No. You're correct, and I'm glad you know what I'm saying, and if fucking Caroline even knows what I mean.
No, I know. I feel
this one's for the internet.
Yeah.
No, you're totally right, but I am deeply disturbed by that, at people losing their businesses closing. You know
people
what I'm saying?
that had businesses for 50 years.
And I'm growing even more troubled with these people that are not either unemployed or have been lucky enough to keep their jobs, that there's this whole people in the middle that are being totally brushed over because they're not on polar ends, It's, the payroll tax cut is good, but only for people who kept their jobs. What about all the people that are unemployed? What about all this other money, this extra $600? Oh, but that's not good for people who, who still have their jobs. They're just pissed off, There are tens of thousands of people who got to keep their jobs and also lost money at the same time. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And I hate to use myself as an example of well, what about me? But just as an example for those tens of thousands of people, I was lucky enough to keep my job. Yep. But I also worked 50 hours before. I was making I needed that to support my family so my wife can stay home with our kid. I was losing hours now because of what's going on. But my company cares enough about us that they didn't want to lay us off. They didn't want us to have to potentially wait 7 weeks to get checks in the mail from the government, Because you may have got more money, but we know one of our close friends that waited, I think, 8 weeks with no money before you get cash. And it's great because then you get a lump sum, but you still have to survive that 8 weeks with no fucking money until the end.
Trying to figure it out because most people are living paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah, and I 1,000 times over appreciate that I got to keep my job, and I was in a very, very lucky position, So I I am not the prime example, but there are many people who are in similar positions that were not as lucky, that kept their jobs and lost a fuckload of money. Yep. And those people are just not even discussed in this, you know?
Dude, you see these giant corporations, right? Getting billion-dollar payouts, right?
Bankrolled.
And then they're still laying off thousands of people.
Yeah.
Like Boeing laying off so many people, but they're getting 300-something billion
to support them, yep.
That, what was the name? The
PPP.
The
Payment Protection Act. Payroll Protection Act.
Yep.
Payroll Protection Program.
PPP.
Yeah.
Some crazy shit.
Yeah.
Now we're trying to argue over more of that.
And so it frustrates me that on this particular note with Jay Inslee, that I'm adamantly against something I would normally be so in favor of. You know what I'm saying? Pathway to citizenship, this whole time we've been doing the podcast, I'm like, fucking let them have a way to be here. Especially in talking about DACA, we know people that are dreamers, you know what I'm saying? When you are 6 years old and your parents take you across the border, you have no control over what you're doing when you're a child, you know what I'm saying? Let the motherfuckers live here. This is why is this even a discussion that we're having?
You know, here forever.
Going to school here, having a job here, existing, paying taxes, having a totally contributing member of society. Let the motherfuckers live here. Like, what is, you know what I'm saying? So I'm so frustrated that I'm to try and defend the people that we defend as a show consistently. You know, the unheard people, the politically homeless, like you called them earlier this week, right? That I've heard that. Those are the people that are being left behind, that are being just completely fucking ignored because they got to keep their job. So fuck them. You know?
Well, and I see a dude a lot working at a community clinic because, you know, it's like we're the low income and a lot of undocumented income because we do a sliding scale. So based off your income, and all we need from them is a paper from their boss, a note showing, you know, that this is how much they make and they get paid cash.
Yeah.
And we put them on a sliding scale and they can come and just pay cash and get healthcare. You know? Basically.
Well, and partially to that note, right, and to this James, there's been continued discussions from him about, you know, ICE and operations during this time. In the very beginning, it was announced federally that there were not going to be anybody deported because they went and got a coronavirus test or they went to the hospital. They were like, we're not doing that. We're not, that's not what's important right now. We're not trying to kick people out. We're trying to make sure people don't come in. That's our biggest concern, you know? Yeah. And so just this renewed shit of American citizens being left behind, you know, in favor of this progressive intersectional message of like, nobody is illegal, you know, no human being is illegal. And I'm, you know, I don't think anybody is arguing that. That's a whole other issue, but it's just frustrating to see people being left behind in favor of a message that seems irrelevant at this point in time, you know, that has been deemed federally irrelevant at this point in time. Yeah. And I'm very frustrated by that, you know, and to see other people championing, like, God, he's doing so fucking good, you know, he's doing all this really great shit, like all this fantastic stuff that's going down in our state. What a model, you know, Washington State is of how we've handled coronavirus.
Yeah, dude, and it's insane.
So funny.
He ran for president, dude.
Oh my God.
He ran for president.
Do you want to know what my biggest beef with...
I wanted to fucking...
Do you want to know my biggest beef with the Jay Inslee presidential run is, and we talked about this too, is that over the time that he was running for president, millions of dollars in taxpayer money in security for the state patrol that were going with him. They were traveling with him to other states. They were on campaigning. Millions of dollars extra that he pulled out of the fund that he never paid back.
Yeah.
That he just wasted on doubled security patrols at one point, people staying there, overtime, hotels, all this stuff that he's using taxpayer money on for his presidential run that he never paid back.
And that's the thing about politicians, you know, they got so much power and then they can just do basically what they want.
And it's like no one even, like, we talked about it. We're fucking screaming about it. We're like, he's literally millions of dollars he's thrown away. Seattle Times is writing articles about it.
Hey, you're welcome for the free vacation.
Yeah. People just don't give a shit. We're literally bankrolling his presidential run, you know, for his failed presidential bid.
Yeah. Which was a joke.
Yep. And
he
people are jazzed. No, there was like, no chance.
Maybe, you know, that's some deep state shit. Cause, you know, the DNC really, to me, is nothing but a faceless fucking just image of, you know, who runs that shit and who says Joe Biden's the one. And then to the point where all these people
Certainly
are fighting on the,
yeah.
they're fighting on the debate stage.
Mhm.
They're all trashing Joe Biden. Every single one. I even tweeted, I was like, this is beat Biden. This is what it's turned into, this whole debate.
The last couple debates,
2 minutes of just each of them trying to get at him.
Yeah.
And then a month later, one by one, they all say, I endorse Joe Biden.
He's the man.
Yeah,
to lead this charge.
like what the hell, dude? And then Kamala Harris is gonna be his VP.
Is that what you think?
I don't know,
Harris
but
is your...
you know, I just look at Google News and just scroll through it, and
her
you'll
name's
see-
definitely being discussed
being
widely,
thrown out there
for
a lot.
the VP pick.
And she was one of the number ones who was on his ass.
Yeah, I think that would be a mistake.
That would be a mistake, dude.
But-
We would be. Oh god, dude.
Yeah.
we're the new fucking North Korea after that.
So let's talk about potential phase 4 real quick, and then we can talk about political unrest shortly, and then we'll get into
Political unrest.
Yeah,
The heavy lifting.
yes. So there are talks this week began for a potential phase 4 stimulus plan, federally, nationally, and the things that I have heard so far, right? Because last week I heard they were going to try and introduce one this week, and then Mitch McConnell was like, "No way, we got some time going on." One of the big sticking points that we kind of mentioned earlier is the payroll tax cut, right? So the president has been really in favor of this payroll tax cut, which will increase the amount of paycheck that you get every week because it reduces the amount of taxes that are taken out. And the big argument has been, well, that only helps people, who are working right now. And as I mentioned earlier, there are a lot of people who are working right now that could also use more money. So I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. One of the things that's been talked about is reducing the amount of money that's brought in through unemployment. There was that $600 that was added in the beginning that expired yesterday. On Friday was the last day. And so there was talks of, extending it. And then if we're going to extend it, are we going to do the same amount? Or are we going to do less? The last number that I heard was 70%. And I am still unclear if they meant 70% of that $600 or 70% of what your wage was prior to unemployment. It's 70% of your wage.
That's what the idea was.
Okay. Because all I heard was just 70%. And I was like, 70% of fucking what? Right? Because I also heard, just an extra $200, an extra whatever. So I wasn't sure what they meant. So 70% of what your wage was prior. And
which makes it infinitesimally more complicated.
Way more complicated.
Totally impossible for
to calculate that for
if our state government couldn't handle the flat 600, then how do we think we're going to react when we have to do everybody as an individual case?
They're going to be like this. What the fuck are we doing?
Well, not to mention, right, when unemployment was expanded, it was expanded for people who were independent contractors and, just owned their own businesses, stuff like that. People who ordinarily would not be eligible for unemployment partially because there's almost no way to try and figure out how much their weekly wage would be. You run into this issue now that how do you decide how much that person makes a week? Because we couldn't figure it out beforehand. Mm-hmm. So do you just give them 70% of what they were getting before unemployment? Do you just give them whatever? On top of figuring out independent 70% of their wages, you have to try and decide, like we were talking about earlier, how much money is this person worth, because we didn't know before, so let's just try and make it up now, because if you weren't an independent contractor making $3,000 a week before, and now you're making $850 a week, because I think the minimum in the state at least is like $258 plus that $600 would have been $850, which is, I think that's what it is. I don't know for sure. We talked about it a couple weeks ago. Yeah. So don't quote me on it, but either way. So, you're still cutting your wage, in a third. And that's just because you were doing so well before. Yeah. So what do you do with all those people?
You've got to have a cap on it somewhere, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I'm curious to see where that's going to go. Mm-hmm. There's $105 billion going to schools, like I think $30 billion going to colleges, and then the rest of it is going to K through 12 schools for safety and cleaning and whatever. And I've heard from a lot of
aren't going to.
I've heard a lot of people, teachers and stuff, county coordinators say that that's still not enough. That it's only in a lot of cases enough for like one janitor per school, where they had one sharing a few schools before, and they're like, that's still only one janitor, you know, like that's still not enough to adequately clean an entire school for several hundred children every single day, multiple times a day, you know? So there's a lot of discussion that that's still not enough money, but there are many budget hawk Republicans that are concerned that right now is not the time to be spending more money. We've already spent so much money. I don't want to spend more money, you know?
Yeah. And who is Mitch McConnell to the point where, like, he's the one that makes the decision of these $2 trillion packages?
Of the cap, yeah.
Why is his name the one that, he doesn't, you know?
He's just the top dog.
He's just,
that's
like, he's
what he
just
is.
the
Top
one that
turtle,
can just
bro, the
make
top
these
turtle.
choices
Yeah.
He is
that involve trillions of dollars.
Yes. He's the majority leader of the Senate. And so kind of like how Nancy Pelosi gets to kind of dictate what says in the House because she's the Speaker of the House.
Yeah, and
he gets to do the same thing for the Senate.
Yeah.
How much plastic surgery do you think Nancy Pelosi is?
Too much. Way
in
too
her
much.
life?
Skeletor.
Yeah,
Colin calls
she
her
is scary
Skeletor.
looking,
Yeah.
bro.
I agree. I compared it to, have you seen the pictures of when they have cartoon characters in real life?
Oh,
yeah,
God.
yeah.
That's what I would compare it to.
Yeah.
When you see that, you know, because I saw them once on my TV, and I was sitting on the floor stretching, so I was like real close to it.
Oh, my
President,
gosh.
like Mike Pompeo, and I was like, this is fucking horrifying.
Yeah.
Like, they look terrible.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. Yeah.
It's like, retire.
Yeah, it's scary. It's not good.
Go
High
back,
def is
go
not
into
in
a
favor.
coffin.
Yeah, and I'm
Jesus.
as far as federal spending goes, we've spoken adamantly about concerns about it. You know, that like, what are we doing to the actual value of the dollar? Not just globally, but in the minds of Americans.
And-
you know,
and, yeah,
if you're
like-
seeing trillions of dollars be added to the debt, how confident do you feel in how much money?
It really,
is
what
worth, you know?
I think it comes down to is the stock market. You know, they want it to crash because these billionaires are just going to buy back into it with the bailouts they're getting with all this money. Boeing stocks drop and then they fucking rose again because it'll never crash.
Yeah.
It'll never crash.
Yeah.
That's one of those.
That's
They're
why I
too
like-
big to fail. We
Yeah,
can't
yeah.
let the airlines.
I like
go
to
out of
see,
business.
more
And
people
that's-
getting into stocks like,
Yeah.
like us.
That is exactly what happened with the phase 3 was that the airlines, specifically were just bolstered with federal funds.
Yeah.
Something that
And their stocks dropped.
Yeah.
Southwest Airlines plummeted.
But to
But it rose
this
again.
to this point, I was saying, we've talked a lot about concerns about the debt and stuff like that. But I'm at this point of the mind, and not just for myself. I'm of the mind that I don't know that now is necessarily the time to be worried about how much we're adding to it. And that might be like a frivolous idea, but
I don't think it's frivolous.
at the point that we've already dropped, we talked about like $10 trillion that we've added since January. I mean,
No, by all means, send me another check.
Yeah.
I mean, at this point, just stack another 3 and let's move the fuck on.
Yeah.
Like that's do you watch the show Rising?
No.
Do you watch the show Rising? So those the 2 people that host it were on Joe Rogan, Sagar and Jetty and
Is it
Crystal
on
Ball.
Netflix or something?
Yeah.
It is on YouTube. It is done by The Hill, and I've started to watch it. That has quickly become my favorite political show.
Oh,
you
shit.
really should watch
I
Rising.
follow
yeah.
them on Twitter.
And they talk consistently about how consumer spending has been the only thing that has bolstered the economy over this time. The extra $600, the $1,200 checks that people got, their willingness to spend money over this time is the only thing that has bolstered the economy because everything else is shut down. So
That's incredible.
so the way to fix this is to just fucking put money in the hands of people. That's it, at least by the numbers. That's what we've been shown, at least from what I've seen there is.
Yeah. And then
It's
I would have to ask, how are they doing those tests? What are they looking at?
Yeah, and they've shown a couple of you should watch it because I can't
definitely,
spit in the sources or anything because I'm not taking notes, but I've seen probably over a course of 3 weeks now.
I'll
They've
definitely
shown
watch it. Definitely watch
several
it, yeah.
different studies that are showing the dip in the economy, and then when the checks come out and the unemployment goes up, and that's what's keeping it afloat. It's just
And
people
that's-
being able to spend money, and I don't.
It doesn't make
Andrew
sense,
Yang
right?
was-
Right.
Andrew Yang was a big
Oh, yeah.
dude on,
Yeah.
And I feel like towards the end of the debates, he knew he wasn't going to win. So he was just
Yeah.
planting the seed, with every question, he made
UBI.
sure he had an answer
Yeah.
for it and how it would correlate and help that problem.
Right.
And a lot of it, you can't say it didn't make sense what he was saying.
Right.
But I mean, you know, obviously he did have some like proposals where he was gonna, you know, like the you know, that social system where you like get social credits.
Yeah.
Like the Chinese social credit system that they have over there too.
Yeah.
That kind of turns into something else.
He had some odd views on guns and stuff too that I didn't necessarily love.
Yeah,
but
like you can like some things, and that's with everybody.
But he had some good stuff.
You could tell kind of he had the heart. His heart was in the right place. You know what I mean? I'd
like to see, this is a slight aside, but in a potential Biden administration, I would love to see Andrew Yang in some position, you know, economically.
But you know that the DNC won't allow it.
Well, I don't know.
I think that there's potential for a cabinet position. I think there's potential for that.
He has a huge following.
Yeah, he's very mainstream now. Yeah. Not to like take away from his edginess, but he's very popular. You know,
and then he did join CNN, which you know a lot of people would say he sold out, and a lot of conspiracy.
I think he's trying to get that message out.
But also, I think he's just trying to get his name out because people see him on TV and they're like, "Who the fuck is this guy? Socialist?"
He had cash before, so it's not about money. You know, he bankrolled so much of that presidential bid that he was doing that it's not.
Oh, he did a great job.
Oh yeah,
he did
it the right way.
He's giving money away still. Yeah,
it still is. Yeah.
He was at a point where he gave one or more
to test it out.
UBI.
Yeah.
But I will say this though about I think he's kind of trying to be an insurgent. Because I think in the heart, like he is an IDW guy.
Yeah.
But
what does that mean?
Oh, intellectual dark web. Like,
are you familiar with that term?
No.
Okay. So the intellectual dark web would be people like Joe Rogan, Jordan Peterson.
I've seen Ben Shapiro just posted a video, intellectual dark web, and then it was just snippets of their, because I seen those two podcasts with Ben Shapiro.
Yes.
And I seen he just was on Joe Rogan, and every time I listen to Ben Shapiro, either he's gonna like say something that's gonna like piss me off, or I'm just gonna be like, okay, or something that totally makes sense, and I'm like, you're right, you know, because I think like
180 every time.
Exactly. I like him, but then sometimes I had to unfollow him on Twitter at one point because I was just like, yay, Papi, like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, he's a hot and cold for me.
Yeah.
I love him when he says sometimes certain things, and then sometimes you're like, God damn it. Just get the fuck over this little issue you have here, buddy.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like them, the Weinstein brothers.
Yeah, I've seen both those.
I think Eric was the one who originally coined IDW.
And then Barry Weiss wrote that article that like spelled out a bunch
and that's
of
crazy that
in
Eric
there.
Weinstein shit, or was it his brother? That happened so close to home, you know?
Oh, Evergreen.
Yes, just Evergreen.
I've been there a couple times I was going to try and wrestle in community college, and did some practices there and shit, and it's a nice campus.
Oh, I'm sure.
I would say
there's a lot of crazy ideas on that campus.
But dude, no, when I went there, bro, I seen, you know, people fucking. They had like the rope connected to two trees, and they're fucking walking
slack line
and shit. Yeah, and they're
all the hippie shit.
They're like in circles reading books and shit. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's very strange.
Yeah. Someone's going Colty over there.
Yeah,
it's a little Colty over there.
Yeah,
Evergreen State College.
So there was one more kind of thing I wanted to kind of add when we're talking about all this extra money and all this.
Yes.
Right. So when we talk about national debt and adding the, you know, roughly 8 to 10 trillion that is going to be added to the debt throughout the Trump presidency, due to the way that the federal government has done this release of funds from the Treasury and all this good stuff, they have been somehow able to kind of work around the problem with printing an extra 10 trillion fucking dollars with inflation. But I think that comes down to the fact that since our money isn't tied to a commodity, it really truly is up to us, the consumers, if you will, to actually decide whether or not this money is worth anything or not. You know, it's like, what are we not going to... We kind of control the prices by spending or not spending money.
Yeah.
So it's almost... Maybe... I mean, I'm not an economist or anything, but maybe that's the only reason we haven't had a total, utter economic collapse. Because our money is not necessarily worth anything. Just worth whatever kind of we and the rest of the world wants to pay for it.
Have you guys seen the movie, or like the documentary thing, Zeitgeist?
Yes.
I haven't.
Dude, my brother I was telling you about, he showed me that when I was like 14 years old.
It will fuck your brain up. We're not ready for it.
Dude, and I had just gotten baptized for the second time because I was like super Christian and I had fucked up, in school and like got expelled and suspended and shit. And
you're like, what did I do?
So I'm trying to like save myself, right? And then I see this documentary.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm fucked up in the head. I'm scared of shit. But then older I got, like you understand, like our money's not backed by anything.
Mm-mm.
It's just literally printed. It's just an electronic number that's just grows and grows and grows, and it'll never ever stop.
There is a one man.
If we all went to the ATM right now to pull out our money, we wouldn't be able to get it.
Yeah, we'd run out of hard currency.
There is one man who goes at this point by the name of Jerome Powell, who is chosen by the president and sits atop the Fed and decides what happens there as far as interest rates and inflation and all the stuff.
But isn't the Fed like
drop the interest rates
from the government?
I mean,
it's its own entity.
It is.
I mean, legally, I guess,
but it's run by political.
It is, but it isn't. Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. It's the chair of the Federal Reserve. His name is Jerome Powell, and he is hand selected by the president.
Yeah.
So President Trump selected Jerome Powell to be.
Is that every president?
Every president.
Selects a new guy.
You can leave it if you want. Yeah, I mean, but you have the power as the president, as the executive, to choose.
Quite interesting, right?
Yes.
Quite interesting that a president's salary is like what, 400,000?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, like 450, something like that, 425.
But then for the rest of their life, they're just, you just got Secret Service and live in a mansion forever.
I mean,
well, and they all
given what it is.
Well, and the thing about,
but you're Hillary Clinton, you're doing what?
Thing about
$250,000
presidents,
speeches.
And the thing about presidents, like they'll generally write a book, and that's kind of how America takes care of them. Is they'll write a book and then everybody buys it, and that's even if you don't read it.
Tour.
Yeah, if you like them, then you buy their book. Even if you don't read it, But like, I fucked with Obama, so you buy his book. Trump is definitely gonna write another book when he's done. He's gonna write like 4 or 5 books when he's done.
Okay, let's get it straight.
Everybody hates me.
Any of them.
This is how I did it.
Yeah.
This is how to win. I'm the shit. America. Like that's how they're all
living
gonna go.
in Cuba for the rest of my life. Bye.
Yeah, bye. Yep. Ghislaine Maxwell's still alive. I'm peacing out right now. I'm leaving. Anyway, so the last 2 points on the federal bill as it looks right now is a liability protection for companies, which we'll debate at another time. And then it's reported there's going to be another round of stimulus checks that look exactly like the last ones did. So you got another 1,200 coming your way.
Hard maybe, because it's still got to go. The Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. Yeah, well, McConnell. It seems to have worked out some kind of deal that would do this with the White House, right? With Mnuchin.
I read on Thursday.
If I had to predict specifically about the payments, I don't think you'll get any less than you did last time. I think there's potential during discussions you get more than you got last time. Yeah, but I don't think you'll get any less than you got the last time.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, but the biggest holdup right now, Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer came out and said essentially that. The Republicans in the Senate want to do it kind of bill by bill by bill. They want to do a big
not just this bill. I read that, just not just one giant like the CARES Act was or whatever.
Yeah, so they'll have to get over that first hurdle before we can even decide what's actually going to be in it.
Which, I mean, kind of makes sense because no one was really tracking all the money last time.
It's certainly the way that is for a while.
Yeah.
That's kind of the way they do business.
9/11.
Well, and it's if you look at the history of America and the times that, especially since World War II, when the economy really dips, like that's just this is the first time it's come. I guess during Obama, they also gave out some checks, but I mean, this is the first time I think that it's come as like unemployment checks, like fat economic stimulus in the hands of people, but it's always come from governmental stimulus in some fashion, whether they're bolstering an industry, the airline industry, this particular time, the travel industry, the defense industry, people buying war bonds and shit like that. Like there's any number of times that the economy has dipped and the government's just like, this is how we do it. This is just the first time that it's been checks. And I think there's something that makes conservatives, Republicans inherently uncomfortable with the idea, entitlements, with the idea of giving people money that they haven't earned, quote unquote,
Which they will get also.
Exactly. So, which they're getting every single day with their fucking paychecks. So, So and it's the same thing with the budget hawks, the people that have always been concerned about, the deficit, or the deficit hawks. They're always concerned about the deficit, that are for some reason choosing now to make a stand, of, well, we've spent enough. You know, I don't think that it needs to be that when I don't think you could point to evidence of anything else sustaining the economy. You know? So,
And that's
we got to understand
to,
here,
yeah.
we're going to be operating the red forever
they know,
from now on.
They know, like, well, I feel like we've been in the red since.
yeah.
I think the last time we had a budget surplus was during
Bill Clinton.
Yeah.
Last time we had a
Christ.
surplus was Clinton.
And that was
That son
not
of a
that
bitch.
long ago. And
It was like
we're-
95, I think, was the last year that we had a surplus.
and now where are we at? We got a credit card with no
We're-
spending limit, maybe, and we've been going to
We got George
town.
Bush.
China's like, yeah, we got you. Don't worry. We got you.
That's how. Yeah, don't worry.
We give you more money. Don't worry. Okay, so we'll talk about that as it goes on. Next time we'll be here. John Satak is going to be on the next episode. You know John Satak?
Yes.
John Satak's going to be here next episode. He's getting married like today or tomorrow, Monday, so like very soon.
Congratulations.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
So, God fucking damn it.
What did you do?
Did the whole fucking pre-show forgot to fucking talk about upper left Evergreen. God fucking damn it.
Well,
I listened to that shit too.
We listened to it the whole way here. Fuck.
You fucked up.
God damn it. Okay, well, if any of you guys are listening now, we're gonna have to pull this clip, obviously, and we'll put it up because I'm awfully fucking frustrated. So I do, after I watch, I'll watch the video when it gets posted. So I'll record, I'll screen record it. So sorry, boys, but God fucking damn it. That's how frustrated I am. It was that good. It was that fucking good. I am 1,000% impressed with the way they've done. So we have to take a moment and then we'll switch topics because I should have fucking done it during the pre-show.
It was nice. I only listened to it once. Every single song once so far, but
I've listened to it 6 times now, I think, because I want to just give it a good go.
dude, and
You
I
know?
remember in football, sitting in the bus, me, RJ, and Elijah, we'd be fucking freestyling just in the bus.
That's
We'd just be freestyling back there, Cypher, because the number one rule all the time is respect the Cypher. I see them rapping, I'm like, hey man, what's up? And we fucking just start spitting some
They're
shit.
good, bro.
No, dude, that's when I knew. I was like, holy shit, you guys can rap.
Yeah.
Don't worry. We'll clip it and we'll put it up.
Yes.
on-
No, that's what we're doing right now. We're talking about them. We've had them all on here for anybody listening. We've had them all on here before collectively and then most of them individually. RJ's the next one. We're pinning him down.
Yeah,
I think we're going to
like everyone else has come on twice. I think,
yes.
right?
Micaiah just had a baby.
Yes.
3 days ago, 2 days ago. Congratulations to Micaiah.
Jesus.
It's a beautiful baby girl. Congratulations. Going to be a fantastic father. Super jazzed for him.
Yes, he is.
You have Salt of the Street support 1,000%. If you need anything, you let us know. We will get you a onesie shortly. I've made some pink ones already.
yeah.
I'm doing it. So, Evergreen, it says single on there, but I feel like it's got to be like an EP or something. An LP.
It's an EP,
It's an EP. That's what it is. Yeah. So
it just says single, probably because
I'm not
3
sure.
songs. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know, but
It says single though on iTunes. I've seen that. Yeah.
3 songs, top 10, fucking. I gotta pull it up. Yeah.
Oh, the tracks.
Yes. Yeah. But we listened to it on the way here. I had it. Yeah. Top 10. Follow Me and Up for the Challenge. That's what it is. That's one that I was trying to remember.
Did their picture? I don't know. What would you call that? An album cover now? I don't know. Like their thumbnail
Album
for
art.
it?
Yeah, that's
Album
it's
art.
dope.
Yeah.
Dope.
Yes. It's beautiful.
So
And
cool.
John Satak has been doing a lot of their pictures and stuff lately. Like he's been taking a lot of pictures, so I think he took that photo. I don't know if he made that whole thing, but I'm pretty certain that he took that photo. So we're going to talk to John Satak in 2 weeks about all the stuff that he's doing about, he made their video. I don't know if you watched Elijah's video that, oh man. Yeah. He put out his first video 3 weeks ago, maybe a month ago.
I might have.
John Satak made it.
fucking
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah. This is what you wanted, right? I think it's just called Want It Right. But yeah. Yes, fantastic. So shout out because you guys are making fantastic music.
Yes, sir.
Doing big things right
Keep
now.
doing it.
Get on the fucking train. So
Very, very excited about it.
so today I believe marks day 59. If
Yes.
they continue tonight, I
Today.
believe tonight will be night 59 of ongoing riots in downtown Portland. During the day, there are protests. There are people there peacefully protesting, doing what they're doing, and at night, have you seen footage of what's going on in Portland?
Actually, yes.
You haven't really been on social media.
I haven't
so
really been on social media, but what I will say is I've been on Twitch, and this is where I think you could get into Twitch. Is there's this channel called Woke, but what they do is they I don't like that term woke because it's turned into like a like an ego with no ego
SJW
thing.
term
oh,
almost,
I got like, I'm better than you type shit. I'm more woke than you.
Yeah.
Get more woke or some shit.
Yeah.
That shit's just become abused. But that Twitch page, they always do live streams of the protests. Multiple cities. Early on when it was happening, they had every single city you could think of a live stream.
Really?
Just posted on one, and then they choose the audio of whatever one that they want to, put the audio on. But the last week, all the live streams have been Portland, but just different perspectives.
Yeah.
And dude, I remember a month ago watching them. Portland was like the smallest, not the smallest protest, but like not the biggest ones on the stream.
Right.
Yeah.
Now it's just like I seen so many people there, dude.
Well,
I don't know what's going on, but I've heard that some shit's been going down. And
so what's been happening for 59 days now, I think I said, is rioters have been trying to break into and destroy the federal building in downtown Portland.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so it was boarded up. Not 59 days ago, maybe just like a month ago, it was properly boarded up. For a while, they were just had all the doors closed and everything. But I mean, there are federal marshals that were deployed there first, and now there's federal officers, around the city. We'll get into that in just a little bit. But, I mean, there are numerous times the outside of the building has been lit on fire. They've been trying to light the inside one on fire. They're trying to get in there. There's,
throwing
lasers,
commercial-grade
flashlights.
Jesus Christ.
Oh yeah, there
Fireworks
are
and
commercial fireworks, huge, enormous mortars they're throwing at the police.
Like this?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there are a couple of police officers, I believe 2 of them, that are potentially blinded for the rest of their lives because of the lasers being used by the rioters, shining them in their eyes and stuff, which is
and I've heard rubber bullets.
Yeah,
and
right. So it's there is damage on both sides. I'm not at all trying to say that it's because you're correct. There are, so to speak to that side of the police office, there are rubber bullets being deployed. There are flashbangs, tear gas. I mean, all of the crowd control things. And I'm not using crowd control as of that's what these weapons are deemed as crowd control weapons. And so the violence is most certainly on both sides, but I hate this, but the U.S. Marshals are there to defend the courthouse. They're not there to fuck with anything. They're there in response to what's happening to defend the courthouse. So
they're doing their job.
Right.
Yes.
Right. And so I think I saw the first reports a week or 2 before it actually was big, right? That someone had been scooped up on the street. I was like, that's really weird.
I saw that.
I saw a video.
Unmarked cars.
Right, a while ago, right? And then it got big just over the last week, maybe 10 days, you know? And so...
Which again, 58 days into it. It was happening for over a month before it actually started to grab media attention.
Yeah. And do you guys, I'm sure you guys follow Tim Pool.
Oh yeah.
Timcast IRL. We watch that motherfucker all the time.
Holy fuck, that guy has some shit.
We're gonna talk
people
about
have been coming out of when I think in DC a cop was killed and they just some guy rolled up,
just blasted him,
and then in a white van and then gone.
Yep. And so
that's some crazy shit because there's some independent militias being formed at this moment.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Yeah. That's some scary shit to
some
think about.
Not so patriotic ones.
My dad even is like, dude, we need to get guns. And I'm like, yeah.
Well, so I'll tell you this.
I don't have a gun, bro.
All right. Well, so this is my everyday carry. Is this firearm right here? And you can touch it if you want. You don't have to. And then before all of this kind of happened, I bought my first AR-15. And since then, I have purchased 3 more lower receivers, which is the only serialized part of an AR that you have to buy in a store and have registered. All the other pieces you can have sent to your house. Yeah. So I've since bought 3 more lowers that are just the base building
What does that do?
That just makes it so that I have it already. All the other things I can have sent to my house, I can get from other people.
No, what is the thing?
Oh, the lower receiver is what the trigger goes in, and what the it's what makes you actually be able to fire the gun. That's where you put the magazine into the lower receiver.
Yeah.
So that's the only part of it that's actually a firearm.
Oh, so you can start building guns with that. Got you. Cause dude, I have a guy that I work with. He showed me some crazy ass pistols he's built. Like it's a pistol, but he's like put it like some shit where he can fucking like where he's going like this.
Yes.
I'm like,
yep.
You're a psychopath.
Yeah. So I have 3 lower receivers that I've purchased.
But I truly believe people should have guns. Like you need guns.
We've discussed that many a time. And when we first started this show, I was fairly adamantly against guns. Like I didn't have a problem with people like owning guns or carrying and stuff like that. But one of our first episodes we argued about AR-15 ownership and stuff like that. But that's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
But there are many people. Colin shared statistics when we did the live show at the wine bar that through March we had already had twice as many background checks through the state as we had all of last year to buy guns. So in 3 months we doubled an entire year of background checks. There are a lot of people that are in the same mindset that you are, that guns is the way to go now.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are a lot of people like that.
And with the right background checks that are in place, people should get guns. I mean, we definitely should take into account mental illness, and if you're on any type of like antipsychotic drug,
there
should be some more maybe tests done to just make sure that you can test from a doctor saying like this guy is competent to carry a weapon.
That would be a good conversation to have. I just don't know if we could really have time to hash that one out.
Oh,
right?
yeah, we will for sure. We will have you back.
Just like it's just like
that is a very common, I think, way of thinking right there, and that type of idea deserves conversation for sure.
And so the biggest thing that I want to talk about with Portland, right, is like I said, within the last 10 days or so, it's become major news that there are federal officers operating in Portland in unmarked vehicles that are apprehending people who have ties with the riots, right? And there has been a lot of muddiness, to say the least, around this involved with the media. And so I'm not going to qualify a bunch of my words. I'm going to say exactly what the truth is, and we're just going to go from there.
I think that's probably the best way to do it.
The actions that are being taken in Portland by the federal officers are 1,000% legal. They are 1,000% shady, and in my personal opinion, 1,000% unconstitutional. But as it sits now, they are 1,000% legal. This is able to be done under 2 pieces of legislation. One being called the Patriot Act, passed under George Bush. The other, the NDAA, National Defense Authorization Act, passed under Barack Obama, that allows federal officers to apprehend anybody at any time for any reason in any part of the globe. In relation to terrorism. Right? So because these actions are being taken against a federal building.
At any part of the globe?
Yeah.
Yes.
Like in the world?
Yes.
Thank you, Barack Obama.
Globally. Swear to God. And that's why I'm saying I'm not, we'll explain whatever you want to you, but for the people, I'm not going to qualify, but globally.
That's
federal officers can apprehend anybody across the globe for suspicion of affiliation with terrorism, acts against America. I mean, there's this, all this ambiguous language of reasons you can be picked up, right? And held for X amount of time. And
I feel like it's Dick Cheney's wet dream. That's really what it is.
So, as I say, in my opinion, 1,000% unconstitutional. 1,000%, right? But let the motherfuckers pass it into law. So it's here now, right? It exists. The NDAA exists. So, as we've discussed with so many other things in the government, when you think short-sighted and you pass something because you really want to use that thing, someone else you hate is going to be able to use that when they get into office. That's
exactly
against you. And that's exactly what we're seeing now. Right? President Trump, so many people hate him, he's allowed to use this legislation that Barack Obama signed into law to apprehend these people, right? And so there's all this language about, like, people are being disappeared in Portland, and they're being, scooped up. Gestapo, fucking Nazi police, like, all this shit, right?
Yeah.
There is literally not a single account of someone being picked up and not let go.
Yeah, like, where they come back?
They've been taken to the federal courthouse, questioned, and released. Every single time.
And these people have talked about it?
There have been people who have been interviewed. They've said, no, I wasn't sure where I was at first, and then I knew I was in the courthouse. They questioned me. This happened, and then I got let go. Because they're not being arrested. They're being apprehended, right? Mm-hmm. Which is, legal loopholes, jargon, whatever, right? But they're not charged with a crime. They're taken, apprehended, questioned, and then released.
Just at random.
No. It's people that they've seen throw fireworks or graffiti, destroy something. Mm-hmm. Someone they have seen have some connection with actual rioting, because that's the only jurisdiction they have.
Yeah.
The only jurisdiction. And that's why they're being questioned, is because they're there writing, so they know other people. They potentially, might know other people. They might know, where'd you get the fireworks? Where'd you do this? How did this happen? Right? There is literally not one account. And let me also say this, because this is not us defending the actions of these federal officers, right? Because as I said, I view all of this as extremely unconstitutional. I'm not okay with it, right? As far as arguing legality, because so many media companies are saying without saying that it's illegal, and all the governors that are saying, and the mayors of the cities are, we're putting the federal officers on notice. If you come here and act illegally, we will, charge you. So what you're saying is if you come here and do anything other than the reason that you said that you're coming here, which is all 100% legal, we're going to charge you, right? Yep. It's political posturing. All of this is legal, right? Fucked up. Don't think it should exist. But it's all legitimate, And
check out this tweet real quick.
No. All you can do is be more vigilant and be like, this should not happen. The NDAA should not exist. We need to rally to petition to get rid of this.
Absolutely.
Repeal the NDAA. Hashtag.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Hashtag
repeal the NDAA. Right now.
Yes. So what were you going to say? I'm sorry, Colin.
Check out this tweet from Representative Pramila Jayapal. I think she's out of... So,
hater.
A number of Washington State federal legislators have signed this kind of letter essentially denouncing what has been happening in Portland as far as the federal government's involvement here. And also with the concept of the federal surge associated with Portland is also happening in other cities, including our own in Seattle. Mm-hmm. Right. And so these people signed on there, including, almost everybody here you could think of, right? You got Pramila Jayapal, Patty Murray, Maria Cantwell, Adam Smith, Rick Larson, Susan Delbane, our own Derek Kilmer, Denny Heck, and Kim Schreier.
Fuck Denny Heck.
Yeah.
I don't know any of those people.
I know at least half of them.
Yeah, at least half of those. I know. Both of our senators are actual local federal representation.
A couple of other ones.
And a couple of other ones, yeah. So, these are... We now have state governments denouncing actions of the federal government, which are actually legal actions.
Signed in, it should be noticed that those are all Democrats, and it was signed in by a Democrat. That they all are like, first of all, they all support Joe Biden now, who was there when this was fucking signed, right? Could have done something at the time. They're all in support of him now, who he was there when this happened, right? So there's that. They also, consistently speak about the policies of Barack Obama and when this happened and this happened. And during the last administration compared to this one, consistently comparing Obama and Donald Trump. Fucking stupid as it is to compare to different presidents, but
they've all been there this whole time.
It's bold-faced, it's just pandering. It's just political pandering because they don't like what they're seeing, and they should have done something at the time, and they didn't, because most of these people, if not all of them, were in office when this was signed into law, and they didn't say shit about it. They didn't care. But now that it's being used against groups that they are trying to politically support publicly, they're not happy about it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And it's nonsense. And I've dealt, now I want to dive into some personal stuff or like deeper political stuff, right? Because we've covered, it's legal, it's fucked up, shouldn't be happening. It is what it is,
the
right?
Mayor of the city has joined in at one point. He was there the other night.
Standing in the riots.
Standing in the riots
tear gas,
and all that good stuff. Yeah. So he
Good
was
old Ted.
actually
That's
technically
front page news. I've seen that.
Yeah, he was technically
picture of him?
trespassing, just like all the other people that were trespassing, and he got tear gassed, and then he got shouted out by his own constituency and all this good stuff. He's ordered the actual Portland police to stand down when it comes to these interventions and these attacks on the federal building. And while at the same time, we've just discussed, this is all legal now, except you have states fighting against it, including the Attorney General, I believe, or the U.S. Attorney for Oregon has filed a lawsuit seeking a restraining order from the federal government, so they would have to leave, which has since, I think it was yesterday, that the federal court judge actually denied their lawsuit, proving that the NDAA is the law of the land.
That's some scary stuff, man, because like it to me, it's like we're in some murky waters where it could turn into like a civil war.
Oh,
like
it's hell of a
states that want to alliance together against the federal government, and then it becomes what at that point? Like
right, yeah.
And there's a lot of people. Tim Pool was talking about that. There's a lot of people talking about
dude,
that.
Yeah, Tim Pool's one of those guys where I'm like,
talking about
Tim Pool, you might have something here, dude.
If this was 200 years ago, a more classical constitutional government would see it as secessionist acts. You know, like these are not good things that the state governments are doing
in the streets.
And I've been dealing with a lot of personal quarrels with this, right? Because the people that are there rioting are, I mean, not totally Antifa, but a lot of Antifa. There are a lot of just far leftist groups that are like acting to like destroy the government, you know, do whatever they're doing there, right? Calling it a revolution.
What are they trying to do? What are they trying to do? What is their goal here?
They're LARPing. This is all, and
right?
I've heard a couple of people say that before, and I wasn't sure what they meant, you know. And then when I was talking to Jordan earlier this week,
what does that mean? I don't know.
Live action role playing, right? When people are dressed up like knights and shit, and they're with the foam swords and all that, that's LARPing, right? Yeah. These people in Portland, they're LARPing, right? That's like I said, I don't remember who I heard that from because I didn't understand it before, and I get it now, right?
Because with the BLM riots in the early, we knew what that was about,
right?
What is this about? Right. Except now they do have it about, and it's getting the federal government out. But.
Right, because if these people destroy the federal courthouse, to your point, right, what happens after that?
Yeah.
Then what?
What are you trying to do?
Nothing. There's no step after destroying a federal courthouse. There isn't no plan announced, nothing that they're going for. It's just destroying the courthouse because it's an image of the systemic oppression of the government.
I'll tell you what's
that's holding us down.
They try to take down the White House.
But what I'm saying is from an organized fashion of this group, like in their intent, they don't have a next step. There isn't a greater thing to this plan.
They don't have like a list of demands or nothing.
And to that same effect, they're using fucking fireworks and frozen water bottles. This isn't a revolution. Yeah. This is people fucking LARPing. If this was a revolution, I'm not wishing on this. I'm not calling to violence for legal protection for the lawyers, you know. I'm not calling to violence. I'm stating plainly because there's been so many questions of like, oh, where are all the libertarians to come and, you know, protect us from the federal government? You know, all these people all these gun owners that having to protect against, you know, government tyranny. Why aren't you showing up to protect us? Because this is fucking LARPing. Because this is bullshit. Because if this was a real revolution, you'd be there with fucking guns. You would be tearing shit down. You would be trying to overthrow a government, not destroy a building. This is bullshit. But it's the same thing from these leftist groups as we're getting from the government. It's bolstering. It's just political. They're just causing chaos.
Yeah.
Just trying to cause chaos. There's no next steps.
You know, personal feelings about what's going on too. I'm sure all of us have. And I think there is kind of a revolution happening, but it's not like something that we're seeing. It's like a revolution of consciousness that's happening with a lot of people are waking up. They're not just believing what's being told to them. You know, this is a revolution of consciousness.
It's classical wokeness.
Yeah.
Back before it got co-opted.
Yeah, no,
Or was misappropriated.
I like the term like waking up because it is a true feeling when you learn something and then you can't unlearn it, right? Like that's where ignorance is bliss, because if you know more, the more anxiety that can bring, because you're thinking more about like
very true
things that are happening, you know? The more you learn, the more you know that you don't know anything. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So it's like
that's the way it goes.
But it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, if you didn't understand it, go back and listen to it again. It totally makes sense.
Yeah.
Truer words have never been said.
No, it totally made sense.
It's just like,
Do you know who Sam Harris is?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Do you ever listen to his podcast?
I've heard he's really good on the meditation and stuff, but I haven't actually. I have him in my my feed, but I have so many podcasts in my feed. Also,
dude, I totally get that.
Like, you know what I mean? Like,
totally get that.
Have you listened to like Philosophize This? Philosophize This?
I have not.
It's a great podcast.
I feel like
I just recently started getting into it. Yeah, like
Philosophize This.
Yeah, it's a really good podcast. He just basically breaks. He's a philosopher, and he just breaks down like different things in life. You know,
Philosophize This.
Yeah, it's a great. It's a great pod.
West.
Yeah, it's a great pod.
Well, it's got 100,000 ratings at 5 stars. I am officially subscribed.
Yeah. Done.
But my point was, Sam Harris, he actually, one of his original books called Waking Up, and it's kind of about religion and stuff like that. He's a pretty big atheist, but his podcast used to be called the Waking Up Podcast. But after waking up, getting woke became what it was today. Yeah. He hung on to it for a little while, but now he had to rebrand, and he's changed his podcast now to, I think it's Common Sense Podcast.
Yeah.
Which is almost a little too close to another podcast that I really like called Common Sense. Now I want to make sure I have the right name on that one. Oh, the Making Sense Podcast. That's what it is. The Making Sense Podcast.
Yeah, and I heard he has a lot of good guests on there too.
Oh, great, man.
Yeah.
Like it's not necessarily like a current events type of thing.
Yeah.
And the people that you're getting on the show, you may not necessarily know.
And he's into psychedelics and stuff like that too,
He is. Yeah. Because he is a neuroscientist, and he has a lot of that knowledge on.
Oh my goodness, that's amazing. I need to listen to that. Because, really, you know, as I was saying before, like, I've had some recent spiritual, like, awakenings, I feel like, within myself.
He has his meditation app too.
Yeah. Oh, that's
like,
awesome.
I haven't gotten it anything.
Yeah.
I've been looking to get back into meditation sooner rather than later, because I know I had gotten into it at one point when I was younger, and it really changed a lot of the ways I had like moved throughout the world. Yeah, because it does change like your consciousness in a fashion.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of us, you know, younger people, we've learned so much like way faster than the generation before us. Oh yeah. So like our minds are evolving, and we're into things like, I remember when I was in high school, I was into lucid dreaming like a lot. And I was writing my dreams down every morning to where I started catching myself dreaming. And then you wake up, right? And then you're like, fuck, dude. Like, and then the next time you catch yourself dreaming, and I remember I'm like a senior in high school, and then I'm back in my junior year, and I'm like, why am I here? Like, this is a dream. Weird. And then you start doing things like that you want to do, like whatever you want. And it's crazy. It's crazy stuff. But it takes a lot. It takes a lot of time. You create a dream log of your dreams, and like whatever you remember, you just jot it down. You have to do it first thing in the morning, because you'll forget. You will forget.
That's wild. I'm gonna have to try to do that.
Yeah. But recently I've been getting into like, you know, astral projection and shit like that, you know?
Oh yeah, shit.
Just trying to expand your consciousness around, you know, to connect to that whole universal energy everywhere. That's here.
And I think if you listen to Sam Harris's podcast, he talks about that kind of thing a lot.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And there's a lot of good stuff you can do with it, with expanding your consciousness, exploring your consciousness.
Oh yeah.
But there's also a lot of bad things that can come out of it, or that people, you know, their intentions going into it, you know what I mean? Like,
well, the problem is
there's people, you know, that do ayahuasca all around the world, and you can go to a shaman in Brazil that'll give you the best experience you've ever had in your life. And then you can go to another shaman where they literally have people like human sacrifices, and their intentions are to like gain power and different shit like that. That goes into the satanic like rituals where, you know, the child is like the purest form of a human. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, that's pretty much leads us right into the next topic.
Like, that's
to be honest,
where they like kind of feed that from. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The purest mind, they will literally, you form it into whatever you want. You know what I mean? Like same with like how certain cultures they from a young age elongate their necks with rings. You know, you can do things, manipulate minds and bodies.
So why
whatever
would you
you
be able
want.
to do that with your own consciousness?
Exactly.
And I think I'm not a neuroscientist, but from all the neuroscientists that I listen to and what they talk about, it sounds like that's something that's totally possible.
And it's hard to explain consciousness, you know, even with a neuroscientist, like what is consciousness?
That's because it's so immaterial.
Yeah, in my eyes, consciousness is God.
And a lot of people would say that, I think.
The everything, you know?
So can I ask you real quick, because you've said, because you have, because you've mentioned God and like praying and stuff, and then you've also mentioned connecting yourself with like the universe around you, and so you also you were baptized twice, so you are religious,
so I was
correct?
No, so growing up, my mom, my grandma, everyone's super religious.
Yeah.
Christian. Growing up.
Okay.
I was baptized when I was a baby, or like young.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, got in some trouble when I was around 13 and wanted to make a change in my life. So I was like, I'm going to get baptized again.
Double
my brother
down.
had done it again. And then my brother showed me this video when I'm 14 years old. Very confusing, right?
The Zeitgeist video. Right. Okay.
And no, you know, it's really long. It's hard to explain, but it basically breaks down all religions and their similarities and how different ancient civilizations have the same story of Jesus, but different name, but there's no way that they could have been in contact with each other.
Yeah.
Or if you listen to Graham Hancock and that shit like that.
Oh yeah.
Possibly they did, and they were way more advanced. They could map out the fucking world and they could talk to each other, and they were like the United Nations of ancient civilization.
Certainly could
but
be. I'm a big prescriber of that, you know, Atlantis and all that good stuff, all that Graham Hancock ancient
fuck yeah, dude.
stuff.
I've been just getting into like Egypt, and like the last 4 or 5 days I've nothing but Egypt. Nothing but Egypt. I could tell you a whole bunch of shit about Egypt and the pyramids right now.
Well, so hold on. So you were raised religious.
Raised religious. And when I saw that video, you know, I just questioned a lot of shit, and then it really got me into like Illuminati type shit. Like I've always been into conspiracy theories and stuff like that. Maybe really naive at a young age, you know, believing all this stuff. You get really scared. Like you're like, fuck, this is like some demon worshipping shit. Like what the fuck is all this shit in the music videos and all that shit? But as you get older, like, you know, you learn more things, you get more wisdom, and I'm a different person than I was back then. And and all that led up to this, and the information being received at this moment, and you know, me being here right now, it's like I have to talk about it. And
will help you reflect when you talk about it.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah. So you, and I don't mean to make you try and like pin it down,
but I don't believe,
just because you've spoken about the two things, I just am, and I like I said, I'm not trying to ask you to prescribe to one ideology.
Yeah.
There is certainly also, you know, there's a lot of people who don't see them as like mutually exclusive, you know, like in God in like a larger sense of not, you know, a being, but of like a force of, you know.
I don't see God as like a person, you know what I mean? Like people be like, God, Jesus Christ, or something like that. Like that's not how I perceive it. I perceive it as if God is the creation of all things, right? And God's everything. We are also the creation. So then, you know, God is within us. We are spiritual beings, and there's no way this is a holy trinity of mind, body, and spirit. Like when you see, have you ever seen an open casket funeral?
Yes.
You can see like that spirit, that consciousness, that life is gone. Like it's not there anymore. You know,
there is definitely something different about seeing a dead body.
Yeah.
Versus a live body.
Exactly.
Even
it's like sleeping or something like
that. The second it happens.
Even when you see it, the minute you see, you understand. Even young kids will be like, he's not there.
Oh, yeah.
Like, even when they're like 5 years old, they're like, he's not there. You know?
Oh, yeah.
I've seen that.
When you see that happen, you go, oh, okay. I get it.
You understand.
That's a thing.
It's and then realizing that, you know, like, wow,
Yeah. What is that?
Yeah.
Where
do you go?
What the fuck is that?
Why are
when
our
that
bodies,
happens?
you know, what the Egyptians thought was, you know, like, you become a star. And what are stars, you know? Like, a light that has traveled thousands of miles away that's probably gone by now. Disappeared. Maybe it's there for a second. And it's just so bright, and someone dies, they become that star, and then the cycle fucking happens again. Because we're made of stardust,
right?
You know?
Right. I was just gonna say that. Yeah, that we are in fact, you know, made from stardust,
and that's just, you know, some like theory shit.
That's science, bro.
Yeah,
that's facts right there.
Just connecting some ancient civilization that we have no idea why at this point in time they were under the 3 stars of Orion's belt. I had no idea what the precession of the equinox was until now. We're rotating, but we're also on a wobble on the axis.
Yeah.
And a whole fucking precession is like 28,000 years.
And, I mean,
you should watch that movie.
I'm going to have to watch that movie.
You should. So would you say God is just like the word that you use to describe this like force?
Yeah, because I mean, it's used everywhere, and it is what it is. You know, that's God. Like, there's no other real way to kind of describe that feeling.
Yeah.
And that would go into, like, you know, psychedelic experiences that I've had where, you know, you sit there and you're there, but you feel like something else is there, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's indescribable. And, I would just say if you try it, be, you know, in a good environment, because I've done those in bad environments and had the worst time of my life, but then I've had it in an environment where I was controlled, I respected it, and I had the best realizations about, you know, myself, my confidence, you know, doing things at certain times, you know, where I didn't speak up, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And like, you know,
I've heard sounds like a pretty similar experience to a lot of people that really dive into the psychedelic world. It's almost like you're able to tap into like an extra layer or two of existence or something that is totally indescribable because it is not existence, it's something else, right?
Well, and I'm going to say, like, I've never done like mushrooms like him. I've only ever done them like with the intent to like get fucked up, you know? But even when you do that, if you don't have like a revelatory experience, you know, you're not going to forget. Like,
no, you'll still
remember like, I've not done mushrooms or psychedelics hundreds of times. So I'm sure if you do it enough, you know, you'll start to forget trips, but there's like, you don't forget that shit, you know, and it's not, you know, like a cartoon fucking whatever, you know, like it's in the movies and shit.
You don't hallucinate.
It's a very organic type of like, psychedelic type of deal. So, but you don't forget it. You don't forget the experience, you know? And so I don't know, you know, there may be times when I'm older that I draw something from those experiences that I'm like, holy shit, I remember, you know, this happened this time I tripped and out. Like, but as far as right now, because I wasn't doing it with the intent to like try and broaden my horizons, I was just like, bro, I'm about to trip so hard on these mushrooms. You don't get the same thing out of these. You don't forget, you know, definitely.
You gotta do a pretty powerful dose too, to like,
go on that hero's journey.
Because like what happens is you start
do a little
seeing things,
or like a lot to get on the.
You start seeing things like the light will start like having UV rays off of it, rainbows, and it's there all the time. But in this state of consciousness, you can't see it. But when you alter that consciousness, it's there, but it's always there. You just can't see it. So what else are you feeling right now? That's there, but it's always there. It's like a sixth sense. Like you walk into a room. I've done it walking down the street, and then like, you know, you feel the vibes. You really feel it. Everything's enhanced. You feel everyone's energy around you.
Yeah. I mean, I think it totally makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm definitely open to the idea too.
Have you ever done any psychedelics before?
No. But I'm super open to it. I think whenever the next time I go down to Ecuador that's going to be part of that situation. So I'm going to go over to the, you know, because there's shamans, you know, down there all over the place.
And that would be the best way to do it.
Yeah.
But I definitely don't know a guy that has mushrooms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think they're rather ubiquitous around here if you know where to look. From what I hear.
You're at Paul Stamets?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Dude, I heard there's a fucking super good place in Port Orchard.
It wouldn't surprise me. I mean,
Yeah.
we are a wet,
That's what I
soggy
heard, dude.
area, man. I mean, that's,
Yeah.
mushrooms grow around, morels and shit around here.
Mhm.
I mean, there's like huge like shroomin community around here.
Dude,
because-
imagine what the Native
Yeah.
Americans did, bro. Like, they talk about the fucking that's what I've been into lately. Like, just like ancient stories and mythology
a
and
lot
shit.
of commonalities to
I
now.
love
Yeah.
that shit.
A lot of commonalities to.
I'm already excited to have you back.
Yeah, we'll have a more.
I'm like making mental notes of like other things that
Yeah, this is going to be good.
yeah.
Return guest number.
Yeah, we didn't talk that much in high school, so I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what I expected.
Well, I don't talk to a lot of
But
people. I
this
used to talk
is
to.
no, this is good. This is
Fantastic.
that I definitely feel. There was about 5 people that we went to school with that I still even communicate with on a semi-regular basis. So let's talk about why you're here, right? Which, well, I mean, you're here for a lot of reasons, but
Yeah.
the main real deal, right?
Why are we here?
Yeah, and then Colin, next week you and I will talk
Colin
more about
combs
the
his
social
beard.
unrest because there's some more shit I want to hash out.
It'll continue to evolve.
Yeah,
It's not going to go anywhere.
Yeah, just so anyone's not like, well, you guys fucking barely even talked about it, and you're just like, I'm not going to defend your ideology. And so there's way more to the conversation that we had there. It's not just about not defending ideologies. I have a lot of, internal struggle about not being okay with what's going on, but also not being okay with defending it, and so it's
Weird, murky territory.
it's an odd
All you can do
place
is
to
put it
be.
out there, and let everyone else decide.
Yeah.
Because right now there's us three. We can't disable the NDAA
Yeah, so
or whatever.
the NDAA, yeah.
NDAA.
So as for now, right, I'm gonna leave it at kind of what I said earlier. It's legal, it's unconstitutional, and I'm not in favor of anything that's unconstitutional. I do not live my life that way. So, it's not
Constitution
something
good.
Yeah, it's not something that I'm in favor of. I don't think that the rioters should be doing what they're doing, but I also am not saying and do not think that it justifies the actions of the federal officers.
Yeah. I think it's a weird situation where you can say, I don't like any of this.
I don't like anything that's going on.
Any of this, right?
Either of it, yeah, because it's going to go down a dark road.
It's all bad.
I feel
It's all bad?
like right now it's at a point of no return because we're 59 days in.
58, 59,
59,
like that,
and how many days are in a year? Remind me.
365.
Oh God! Once they get to 100 days, bro, what does a president normally say? Hey, give me 100 days.
Yeah.
The first 100, and we making changes.
It's getting
You know what I mean?
It's getting close to November too.
Once these protests hit 100 days, something's gonna pop off. But I just hope that people come together and we can figure it out. And come to
Dear God,
to an
yes.
agreement. I have a question for you guys. If there was
Yes.
no race, religion, what would separate humans? Do you think? My friend asked me this question.
Ideology.
Yesterday.
Yeah.
Ideology is in what, like political ideologies or
social ideology.
sociology?
Because
like a
I
social
don't.
structure.
Because I don't have any. I mean, social and political. I don't mean strictly social, but social and political. Because I don't hold any beliefs that are dependent on someone's religion or race. But my ideals still separate me largely from many people.
Yeah.
I believe that because I'm not religious, but I believe that the rights that we have as people of the world, but that are protected in America, are inherent because we are human beings, instilled simply by the fact that we exist. And I don't believe that race, religion, creed, or ideology bears any relevance on that. And so but I also hold, like I said, within that, hold a lot of views that differ from a lot of people as far as social structure, interpretation of the Constitution. There's a lot of views that I hold, specifically in regards to the First and the Second Amendment, that would be considered by the mainstream more radical, and so those are the things that I would personally attribute that would separate people.
Like if I was going to take broad strokes, kind of, go at it, and I think it kind of runs similar to what you're thinking there. An ideology in our eyes is is how a group of people form a society and establish a way to live together, right?
Yeah.
That's whatever that is.
Yeah.
That is essentially an ideology. It's how societies decide how they want to live together, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's always going to be people, because people are human, that will always want to live life a different way.
Yeah.
Believe
and now
different things.
And we're under, the victim of the government's ideologies.
Yeah. And
because we don't get to write the bills that people create. We don't get any input into
it gets a little weird.
What we want,
Right.
What we might think would be better for us.
Yeah.
But we just get to vote on them.
Yeah.
Two shitty bills? Which one's not as shitty?
Right. So I think where do you think you want to start when we're with the child stuff?
Yeah, so I kind of said in the beginning of the show and in the pre-show that this is something that I've been looking into the last month or so, probably, that I've been talking to a lot of different people about to try and figure out how I feel, right? And I don't remember what event it was that made it happen. Maybe it was just Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein. Something happened that I decided, maybe I'll take another look at Pizzagate. And just see, babe, do you remember what it was that I had? Man,
it was a comment someone had made on Twitter
that made me look into Pizzagate.
Yeah, someone tried to bring it up as a valid point, and then you were like, well, with all this new stuff coming out, maybe we should look back at those things. We were talking about how Alex Jones actually has some.
Yeah, there was something else. It doesn't matter. There was something that, that ended up being correct that I was like, well, that's weird. If that's right, then maybe I'll look back into Pizzagate, and just see what's up. And so
now I wish you could remember.
Yeah, I know. Me too. And I'm sure that I will.
I bet you it's probably something that has been in the back of your mind since Epstein.
Yeah.
Because there's been these little anecdotal stories of things like the British royalty and all these weird things. And then you learn more about the pedophilia. And then
it was Wayfair. That's what it was. It was Wayfair. When the Wayfair thing happened, do you know what I'm talking about?
So all I heard was the mainstream thing.
So this is a great place to start, right? Because this is where it started for me.
Was there actually a kid found?
No, but there's investigations being done, right? I mean, it's so what happened was there's all these people, hundreds, thousands of people that found, items on Wayfair that are listed for way too much money than what they're worth, right? Mm-hmm. And then in
$12,000.
Yeah, weird shit. Mm-hmm. Cabinets, office chairs, weird shit, right? And in the item number or in some type of descriptive thing, there is a number or a name that you can search in the International Missing Child's database that coincides with a child that's actively missing. Right?
Jesus Christ.
Supposedly.
Allegedly.
I've seen an awful lot of, and they could all be doctored, but I've seen an awful lot of videos of people going through the entire process of selecting something, going to the next page, typing in this thing, finding a kid that so they could all be made up. It could all be whatever, right? Well, so anyways, either way, super weird, right? And so I was like, well, that's awfully fucking strange.
Okay.
And so because I was like, this, seems to be there might be some legitimacy to this. I don't know. So maybe I'll take another look at Pizzagate, right? And so what?
I just started to think a weird correlation in a flaw in my thinking about, because I'm very skeptical about a lot of this Wayfair stuff, right?
Yes.
Strictly on a numbers basis, because either way, we'll get into that. But I just all of a sudden was thinking about the NBA jersey store situation that happened with you couldn't write in Free Hong Kong.
Yeah.
And put it on there. And I was like, well, if I was just so apt to not believe the NBA when they said that was just a glitch or something like that, it's like, we fixed it. And actually now you can't even do that or whatever. That was Wayfair's story about this stuff originally, is that it's just coincidental. It's a glitch. It was never supposed to happen. These were mistakes. They talk about Market Watch, but why am I more skeptical of that than what of the NBA?
They also said the one in particular, the cabinet, they said it cost so much money because it was industrial.
Yes, it was industrial steel. Yeah.
It's a 2-door cabinet, bro.
Nuts.
It's just a 2-door
it's
cabinet.
ridiculous.
Like the width of that bookcase, like maybe as tall to the wood stand.
Dude,
Like there are
It's an industrial fucking cabinet, you know.
Yeah.
So there's
are marketable differences where you will see you could see the same exact ladder. One is sold at Home Depot because it's for homeowners. It's just a ladder, and then you can see that same ladder sold at like a specialty contractor store or something like that. And it's gonna be 2 to 3 times as much.
Yeah.
Right. Because there is an industrial markup for whatever reason, but not like that.
Yeah.
so right. So
$19,999.99 entertainment system. That was a cabinet. It was like 6 feet tall and it was like 8 feet wide.
Jesus.
I don't care what you're making that thing out of. It don't cost $20,000.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm not saying, right, just to be clear, I'm not saying that the Wayfair scandal is totally legit. I'm saying that I thought it was awfully weird.
It's definitely strange.
And because it was so odd and made me so uncomfortable, I decided that I would give other things a look that I had dismissed before.
Yeah.
And so Pizzagate was the next thing because pedophilia just seemed natural, right? That's, oh my God.
Jesus Christ.
Please. Oh, good God.
When it comes to child trafficking, Pizzagate is the main conspiracy that you go to on that one.
Oh, yeah, that could have been.
Because that's the
good
conspiracy
God.
that is tied to
I'm saying a lot of things. So,
It's on the internet.
yeah, that's bad. Okay, so, good Lord, I'm terrified. So, anyway, so because that seemed like the natural next step to investigate, I just typed in Pizzagate on fucking DuckDuckGo, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And was just like, because DuckDuckGo, for anybody who doesn't know, do you know what
Way
DuckDuckGo
better
is?
than-
Way better,
yeah,
right? It's not, there's no paid things. It's just as they come up,
Yes,
as it should, right?
Because
So
when you Google something, what comes up? CNN, Fox, everything on the front page is all those.
Exactly.
Watch Post, everything.
So I DuckDuckGo'd Pizzagate, and just was like, what do you got?
What is
know?
this? What
and
is
so one of the first things that I got was the video I sent you guys that's called Pizzagate documentary, but doesn't actually have anything to do with Pizzagate. You know?
Yeah, nothing to do with it.
I don't know why it's labeled that, but
really old school.
Yeah, it's from, like you said, like the early 90s that refers to a lot of stuff that happened, a few years before, and it talks a lot about NAMBLA. Mm-hmm. Right? A group that many people listening will know what it is and many people will not know what it is, right? And so we're going to approach this through things that we know for certain to be true, right? That's how we're going to start here. NAMBLA is one of those things.
Yeah.
Yes.
We know for 1,000% fact that it exists. So NAMBLA stands for the North American Man-Boy Love Association.
Yeah.
Which is sick.
And this is not anything that, like, we all hate talking about this, right? But as I talked about earlier, as a father, as somebody who has a child, I think everybody needs to know about this, but specifically people with children need to understand the legitimacy of what's happening here and the potential for what could be happening. So NAMBLA is something that we know for a fact exists. There is a group of people that is growing consistently, both in political influence, because they are a 501c3. They have funding. They have money, millions and millions of dollars, right? Let me rephrase myself. I don't know that they're a registered 501c3 because I don't know that would happen. But I know for a fact they have funding. They have actual bank accounts, money that's flowing through there, right? Yep. So let me just rephrase.
It's crazy.
Millions of dollars goes into this group,
it was like
right?
They went from $600 in their account to 6 years later depositing $5 million.
Millions of dollars, right? Mm-hmm. And so,
in 6 years?
So that's one of the things I saw in this video.
And their pamphlet for their fucking thing was
right. So this is one of the things that I knew to be true prior to seeing this video, right? And then they also start talking about, this newspaper article of child prostitutes. I mean,
this
children,
old one.
right? Yeah, old one. Of child prostitutes found in the White House, right? During Reagan and Bush. Reagan and Bush won, right? Yeah. And I was like, that's really weird. That's how would I not know about that? Like, how would I not have heard about that, right?
That's really weird.
So DuckDuckGo, right? I'm like, well, let me see what I can find, right? I went to 6 different sources that all, I mean, I've looked for the most legitimate ones that I didn't know their names, but they looked, so again, that's all that I can say, but I was able to corroborate this information from numerous different sources, right? And they weren't, like skepticconspiracy.com. Like they're nothing, and I don't, so if people request, I will find some sources, I'll give them to you, right? It's like, that's really weird, that I'm able to corroborate this information, Later in the video, they're talking about this report of FBI in Nebraska, I think it was Nebraska. Nebraska covering up, like a child pedophilia ring and like a murder, with a guy, don't remember what his name is, Steve King or some shit like that. Not the guy now, an old guy, different. Don't remember his name, not important. Was able to legitimate that guy is an actual person. These things are true, right? Yeah. Was the same deal. Looked up this report, was able to find it in numerous different places, right? Just shook by it, right? Extremely uncomfortable that I'm able to corroborate this information, and so it's the same deal as Wayfair. Like, what else is there that I have written off before that maybe I should not have written off, And so that's when I found the other video, Out of Whatever. Out of Shadows. Yeah, Out of Shadows, right? And that one, starts talking about Satanism. Yeah. Like that. Satanism involved in rituals and child pedophilia in Hollywood and imagery and,
code names.
Involvement in the government, right? And all these things, again, I'm going to list off a couple of things that we know to be true, right? They talked about MK Ultra, right? It's a government program where they tested LSD on actual,
Unabomber.
Part of the thing that fucked with me about this movie is that I didn't think these things that they talked about were conspiracy theories. I'm like, this stuff has been legitimate through government documents. Yeah. There's actual, these are verified, So I was surprised that anybody even considers those things conspiracy theories when the government has validated their existence, right?
Yeah, because they went over MK Ultra, which, especially because most of that information has been declassified rather recently.
Yeah.
There was that guy that on Joe Rogan that came on to talk about
Chaos.
Manson.
Yeah,
right? Because he was somebody that was involved in it.
Yeah, and he was
Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber.
Yep. Yeah. All these people. So they talked about that.
Ultra.
Yeah.
Yep. They talked about MK Ultra, which we know now was true. Right?
Talked about Operation Mockingbird, right?
Operation Mockingbird, which was also true.
Federal agents writing stories that are inserted into the media for public consumption.
Mm-hmm. That was at the peak of the espionage era of the Cold War. Mm-hmm. So the CIA was essentially at the most involved in government it has, I think, up until that point, right? And so, they had joint coalitions with people from, at the time, the major media companies to put out essentially anti-communist, anti-Soviet propaganda in their films and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And so that was true.
That's validated through government documents, and George Bush Sr., said as much that this program existed. Mm-hmm. He said that it existed, right?
And when you think about the time, you go, that was definitely an era of runaway executive governance definitely going on. So totally that. Totally true. Gulf of Tonkin, false flag, legitimate false flag that got us into Vietnam.
That was
recently declassified, totally true.
And covered in something as mainstream as the Ken Burns Vietnam War documentary. There's a whole portion of one of those episodes that talks about the Gulf of Tonkin incident, that it exists, that's real, right?
Yeah, and I'm sure you guys know about Operation Northwoods.
Exactly, Operation Northwoods.
Gonna attack our own military. Mm-hmm. Blame it on Cubans so we can...
That was true.
Exactly.
That's
right.
Terrifying.
Yeah.
And the big one would be Operation Paperclip.
Right.
Which the picking up of the Nazi scientists to bring them over here.
Yeah.
That's how we got the atomic bomb. That's how we got all
we got to the moon. All of these things.
How all that shit happened was because we picked up Nazi scientists.
Our involvement with Iran, there's declassified documents where they were going to elect this guy who was going to change their government into a democracy. This is 50s, 60s. The
Iranian Revolution was started.
His campaign was run on, the economy of oil and all that. So what it was the it was like the Angel Iranian oil company, but then the UK and the US literally came together, false flagged a bombing on a religious leader's house. Basically, this guy went to jail, and then that oil company turned into British Petroleum. And they took over the oil, and
I don't know about that.
They
one.
succeeded.
I'm gonna check that one out.
Yeah, you gotta look into that.
Yeah, and so these things that they cover, are like I said, are things that I was surprised to even be heard called conspiracy theories because they're verified. And so.
Well, some of them were legitimate conspiracies. They weren't conspiracy theories. That's why they lead off of this.
But they're conspiracies, right?
Yes, that were actually true.
And so this movie, right, Out of Shadows, begins to draw this larger conclusion that all of these programs are an effort to perfect a program or a system, of child pedophilia, pederasty, and trafficking throughout the globe in the country, right? Mm-hmm. And so all of these different things are used in facets of this operation, media manipulation, like being able to traffic people secretly, like in Operation Paperclip, like all these things, right?
That's what they're trying to tie all those actual conspiracies to.
Yeah.
And then they start to talk about Pizzagate, right? And Pizzagate, if you ask me, right, has become a term to delegitimize discussions about this topic, right?
Yeah.
Because this, like, the things that are talked about within Pizzagate, like the Podesta emails and stuff, are like portions of this larger thing going on. And so when you even mention, like John Podesta, you're like, oh, you're talking about Pizzagate, right? Mm-hmm. And it just shuts down the whole entire, and I'm personally, from personal experience, I know if I heard someone talking about Pizzagate, that's fucking stupid. Pizzagate is not real. That's dumb. Like, silly. You're being fucking dumb. I was all the time. You know what I'm saying? So I firmly believe that through media manipulation, whatever, right? Modern day, it's used as a term to just shut down a conversation about this entire topic.
Especially nowadays, I think.
Yeah. And I don't know about... I don't know about things being, run through a pizza shop and, about a guy going in there and like, I don't know.
That could all have been cover up. Just say, we're just going to talk about this.
That's what I'm saying. So I'm not even really talking about what happened in the pizza parlor, right? No. That's just the easiest way for people to understand what we're talking about. So I want to use it as a label, but not one for people to dismiss it.
But that's
right?
also
just for you to understand where we're going with what we're talking about.
It's also the easiest way for people to dismiss it. Because they'll be like, that guy that rolled up in the pizza shop found nothing.
And I was doing research on that dude this week because I heard like, oh, this guy's an actor, and so that dude, he is an actor. And I think that's interesting, Christ. But, right, and this is important, him being an actor doesn't necessarily mean, and I'm not like, well, that doesn't necessarily, but like,
well, then you just gotta look into his family.
Right. So it doesn't, him being an actor doesn't say that he was acting when he did this. But he has a history of being an actor.
He's an actor, which doesn't mean
very
that
interesting.
He is a crisis actor.
Right. But, he does.
But he could be.
And his dad, his dad is, I don't know if you did research into that dude, but his dad is involved in all these like government anti-pedophilia things, like was able to obviously legitimize these things too. Yeah. And his name and stuff is connected to this website that looks like it, like helps struggling artists and filmmakers like make movies and stuff like that, but like has a weird name and it's decorated very odd, and it's just a weird looking website, so again, I'm not saying anything, but just a lot of weird shit about that dude. And so
just fishy.
So to speak to the escalation of the issue, right, there are more things deeper in the government that we know exist, right? Mm-hmm. Jeffrey Epstein, we know that he existed. We know for a fact that he trafficked children to and from his island, to other countries, to and from, wherever. We know that he was involved in pedophilia and pederasty. We know that he helped other people become involved in that. We know that that's the truth.
Yep.
right?
I mean, he has been charged in the past for such things.
We know that there are actors like Kevin Spacey, just for example, for one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who has admitted to having sex with people who were underage at the time. And I'm sure that's just the one that I thought of off the top of my head, but there's...
And those videos that he released after that, he released that video and the next day that witness commits suicide.
I don't know about that.
You never seen that?
No.
Holy
fuck. It was after he did his little Christmas address or whatever that time.
There's this video. It's came out during Christmas time. He's at a fireplace. And
but he's in character.
He's dead,
even though he's already been fired.
He's dead serious or some shit like that.
Oh yeah, have you seen him?
And then the next day,
dude, it's so good,
dude. Or the week after, the witness that was going to testify against him committed suicide.
Weird,
very weird.
So I didn't know about that part, but that video, is because
I'm going to look into that. Yeah,
he does it in character from the
House of Cards.
So he did it as. What was his name? Woodward or something like that?
Underwood.
Underwood.
Frank Underwood.
Yeah, it was right after he got fired and all shit. It was wild.
Put chills up your back, dude. You're like, whoa.
That's very interesting.
I'll show you that afterwards. I'll send it to you.
So, like I said, NAMBLA, Operation Underground Railroad. I don't know if you guys know what that is.
I remember.
Operation Underground Railroad is a private group that works deeply with law enforcement and global law enforcement to stop child trafficking. They, pose as people trying to buy children so that they can expose child trafficking rings around the globe.
Yeah.
I mean, that's...
Chris Hansen involved in that with Catch a Predator?
They may have worked with them, but this is another guy that, I just actually found him on Facebook to, follow that group. But I've seen documentaries from them before. That's... and so this is something that is being fought consistently around the globe all the time. Mm-hmm. Children being trafficked to be used in sex work, globally, nationally, that is happening, right? Yeah. We know these things to exist, and
we know it is a problem when they can make a TV show where every episode they catch a new pedophile.
Yeah.
Right. That's one of the things is To Catch a Predator, right? Yeah. We know that this exists because for fucking years we watched somebody make a TV show of it where dozens of people are being...
And it's kind of it's fuck, dude, these guys
terrifying.
So this might sound tedious, what we're saying, and I'm not trying to just list off a bunch of things, but I'm just trying to get the listeners to understand this idea of large scale child sex trafficking is not baseless. It is not unfounded. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? This activity and involvement in people of power exists,
and it's
right?
being investigated, and it
consistently
has been proven.
Right?
We've seen,
according to the FBI, in 2019, there was 421,394 cases of or entries into the missing children database. So I don't know that. There's no weight on which kid, what amount of kids might be involved in trafficking, but there's almost 500,000 kids that
go missing every year.
That was last year alone.
Yeah.
So it is completely and utterly plausible for a fraction of that number to be involved in child trafficking.
Yeah.
So now I want us to talk about things that seem very odd with what we know to be true.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so one of those things, Anthony Weiner.
Yes.
Anthony Weiner was trying to hook up with a 15-year-old.
Yeah, he was sending her dick pics and stuff.
Anthony Weiner was a senator, or maybe representative, from New York.
Yeah.
And he is in jail now because he was sending dick pics to a 15-year-old.
Jesus Christ.
His wife is a woman named Huma Abedin, who worked for Hillary Clinton. Was she the campaign manager
of Hillary Clinton? During her presidential run.
Yes. And so when this is all true, right?
That's how he got connected into
when Anthony Weiner got hemmed up, right? They looked all through his laptop and they found a fuckload of Hillary Clinton's emails on there.
Yeah.
A fuckload of them. Metric fuckload of Hillary Clinton emails on there.
This happened real close to the actual election.
James
Comey had come out and kind of changed some things there at the end, and that was in October, I believe, before a month before the election.
Before.
Yeah, so that's just the time frame.
Exactly. Exactly. So that did happen, right?
Yeah. And he was a House representative for the 9th District of New York.
So it seems really weird, that no one would know about that happening, because I don't believe that there was really any indication that this was the first time this type of thing had happened. If
I'm remembering right, there was more than just one incident of this kind of thing.
So that seems really weird, that his wife would have no idea of something like this happening for years, and not that it's not possible, because people cheat for years. There's all kinds of things that people hide from their wives, but I know a dude who had an entire different family. It happens. It totally, that's a thing. It happens, especially, not especially, but a lot of people are old school military vets, World War II, shit like that, people stationed overseas, whole new families. 2-3 kids and then come home. So that's the thing that happens. So that's really weird, Jeffrey Epstein, right? Someone that we can confirm has a lot of ties with very powerful people, politicians, stars, famous people, all this stuff, Yep. Talked about him dying and shit before. We said it on the camera last week. Jeffrey Epstein did not kill himself.
Negative.
So I can attest to that.
So that's really weird. That he has all these connections with all these people, and then he's in jail for just a little while, and the cameras were turned off, and the guards were asleep, and
we had just left 15 or 20 jumpsuits in there.
Just all this stuff, that's very, very weird.
It's all the stuff that when Michael Shermer, a professional skeptic, is hearing about it, and I've said this before, when he goes, what? That seems a little too coincidental.
He's the guy that
Skeptic Magazine
debated Graham Hancock.
Yes.
On Joe Rogan.
Yes. Yeah, he did that. Yeah.
So let's take one more step into Brandon's territory, right?
Yep.
Something else I think that's really weird, right? When all the Pizzagate stuff did happen, right? A lot of John Podesta's emails got leaked over WikiLeaks, right? Yep. A lot of really weird terminology and shit. And this is where, I'm I don't know. I don't know. No one can attest to it. Just super odd language, hot dogs, fucking pizzas, all this shit, And a lot of this language you're able, and they talked about this in the Out of Shadows documentary. A lot of this language used in there, you can confirm through law enforcement, through Operation Underground Railroad, is confirmed is used in pedophilia rings to discuss child trafficking, sex with children, these type of things, symbols, stuff like that, are used, confirmed, It
seems weird.
Yeah.
Very weird, And so this is kind of where I'm at with this stuff, that, especially with these Podesta emails and with the Obama and stuff, we saw with this information, I feel confident I was able to confirm that there have been child prostitutes, child rape in the White House in other administrations before.
Okay.
According
to those news articles.
Right. If these things that I was, are 100% true, and I feel confident they are, but I'm not 1000% convinced they are. Right? So
a little bit more plausible than
it allows me to give more credence to the idea of it in the White House if we're able to confirm that it happened before. And if they got caught before, they're going to get way, way, way better at hiding it. And if they were caught using their own staffers before, in the 80s and the whatever in the 70s, they're going to have to find somebody else they're going to be able to do this through. They obviously can't use their own staffers anymore. They can't use their own people, right? Around that time that these articles came up, I believe is around the time that Jeffrey Epstein starts to begin to come to prominence.
Oh.
Interesting.
So he's the one that takes the hit.
And that's all speculation, right? But it's around that time that these articles, are making a big deal that I believe, right, that Jeffrey Epstein starts to come to prominence. It's in the late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So speculating, right? Just if we're throwing shit out there, seems just odd, just weird. Odd timing to shit that I'm willing to give more credence to, And again, I'm not convinced. I'm not saying this is what's happening, but there's a lot of this stuff we can confirm for sure. A lot of stuff that looks even weirder when we look at it with this stuff we can confirm for sure.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry. I know that I just talked for a long time, but I just lay it out, you know. And so you looked through all most of this information, if not all the stuff that I looked through. And so,
and unfortunately, I didn't do the backwards engineering stuff that I'm kind of think now. Like, I want to look at those articles again, right? And then I want to dig into those publications themselves, especially during the timeline when those things were put out. What kind of magazine was this? Because it was not the New York Times. It was like something,
the Washington Times. It's a smaller newspaper in Washington, D.C.
And you know how those things can come and go and change and all that. So I want to know more about those publications. Were they tabloids back then? Maybe the Washington Times is, because the Washington Times now is a pretty hardcore conservative magazine.
Yeah.
Or newspaper, right? If I remember right. Might be the Washington Examiner. I can't remember which one I'm thinking of.
Washington Examiner.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, like, that's what I want to do there, too.
Okay.
Because, yes, there are these articles.
Totally.
So I want to look at those.
Absolutely.
But again, even then, even without the articles, right? That necessarily tie everything to the White House directly during that time.
Yeah.
I still think with the flight logs and everything from Epstein's his plane and Ghislaine Maxwell's
new documents
book,
that have been cleared for release from her that are due to come out next week.
Yeah. And it essentially
she got coronavirus, didn't she?
Not yet. Not yet. That's my going theory, though. That's how it's going to happen. But
especially if she's in a jail.
Yeah.
Shit spreads like wildfire in jail, bro.
Yeah. But now, supposedly, she's being moved from cell to cell at random and all this good stuff. Yeah. But a year to the trial, which is insane. But I think it's, there's enough of this.
There's no way she makes it a year, bro. There's no fucking way she makes it a year.
No, there is none.
Sorry, go ahead.
But, so there's enough newer information that I don't necessarily think to make that leap to possible government involvement. I don't think you need those old articles anymore, right?
Yeah.
And so, but we'll find out, because it's even that, and a single article or a couple articles from the time is still pretty it's not proof.
Yeah.
Right. So you may form a few more correlations. Correlations. There we go. There's the word. But it's just as correlative as the stuff we're getting now, except now I feel like we probably got a little bit more, it's a little better, a little bit more contemporary. So that, not to take away from that initial point, I just think that now we could probably even go past some of that, because, old documents are old documents. This shit's fresh, hot off the presses. It's happening right now. Photocopies made 2 weeks ago. That seems pretty weird, some of the names that were on there.
Yeah.
We've talked about Ghislaine Maxwell's book last week a little bit. Ghislaine. Ghislaine. That's right. It was Ghislaine or whatever, right?
It's Ghislaine, yeah.
But
Did you watch the Andrew Schultz video about them though?
No.
It's like 7 minutes maybe, and he said, "I thought her name was Ghislaine."
I love that dude, man. He's so funny.
But talking about the NAMBLA and all that in that time,
South Park did a thing about
years ago
because they were making fun of it.
Yeah,
but it was real back then.
Yeah,
right.
And that's in the 80s when that little boy disappeared, right?
Yeah.
Think about have you heard the Atlanta kids in the 80s where there's 20 to 30 kids that just disappeared.
Yeah.
And no one has ever found them. No bodies were ever found.
And to add to that, Jordan has told me about children in ICE holding facilities.
Yeah.
That have been escorted by ICE officers and federal officers away from the facility, and then to somewhere else, and then to somewhere else. And then they don't know what happens to the kids after that, And I wouldn't implicate those ICE officers in the entirety of the scandal, because I think that they probably are just take these kids here. And they're okay, I'm just taking these kids here, but that also seems very weird.
Yeah.
It does seem weird. I can come up with a couple plausible, ideas why they might be doing that, or who knows, maybe they're saying that some of their family or something like that might have been targeted by the cartel, and so they're moving them around or something.
Yeah.
There's a lot of legitimate reasons to not go that route.
Yeah.
But the possibilities exist on both sides because you can't know for sure. I would also like to say that even within, like, let's say the 60, 80 kids get picked up and just disappeared, I want to remind you how big that fucking number was when we started. Over 400,000 children last year.
Yeah.
I guarantee you a number of them are going into trafficking at somewhere, right?
Oh, yeah.
But with that giant number, you know, how does that... shit, what was I going to say? Oh, yeah, there's a lot of these anecdotal cases.
Yeah.
Right? But comparatively to that number, they're really, really small. So how much of that is actually the truth, where maybe we're trying to build this into a bigger thing that it isn't? I'm just saying there's a lot to be skeptical about, but the possibilities are just as good about going the other route. You know, it's both ways there. Sorry, Jordan, go ahead.
Some of those kids were found at a registered sex offender's house.
Boom. Some of those kids were found at a registered sex offender's house.
The children taken from the ICE facility, she means.
It's not helping my argument about being skeptical. That hurts. That's disgusting. Yeah. So, I mean, what else? What else we got? I did want to say that after watching that Out of Shadows,
what do you got on that?
Sitting right, the overall structure of the film, like we talked about, I like to chop it up into, there's 3 parts, right? The beginning establishes, it makes you understand that the government is capable of giant conspiracies that literally start wars. Like that big.
Yeah.
Because we look at all those examples of things that were true. Kidnapping, German scientists, all this stuff. It's all true. So they proved to the watcher that it is possible that the government could get away with what they're going to talk about next. And then they introduced the concept of it being very, very pervasive in Hollywood. And then because they're tying that to the MK Ultra, which we know is true. And then they tie Hollywood into essentially these greater media companies that there's only a handful of media companies that own everything.
Well,
John Oliver
and Mockingbird.
Mockingbird. Yeah. And so, they're trying all those things because those are true. And the media companies were a part of that thing, but it doesn't necessarily mean that what they did with that power led to this child trafficking type of situation and all this code words and all this stuff. John Oliver, I remember there was a portion of the documentary where they had like all those local news stations that were all saying the exact same thing.
Right, and we saw that like 2 years ago when they all got bought up.
Because by Sinclair.
Yes, that's what it is, Sinclair,
and Sinclair Entertainment or Sinclair Media, I don't remember exactly what they're called. They do this because that's how they push around their political control, right? Right. And there was example after example on that episode with John Oliver that showed that this is happening to your local news.
Yeah.
And it is.
Right.
Yeah. So to try to make that jump into the nefarious actions of Sinclair being able to cover up and convince you that this media that you're intaking is due to the government controlling it from all these other conspiracies that we just proved to you are true. This one could be true too. And then it shifts so now you're skeptical of the government, giving them the ability in your mind to allow this Pizzagate to take place, right? And then they shift into Pizzagate, and it's primarily that one journalist.
Pen, baby. Sorry, go ahead.
I got one for you if you want.
Oh, one. Sorry about that.
But we would
draw you into thinking all the conspiracies, yeah.
And then they bring you to the journalist, that single journalist who kind of made this a passion project for herself. Looking after these things. Then she starts talking about NAMBLA, talks about their food-related code words, and then tries to tie it to examples like what we just saw with Wayfair, right? All these overpriced items and all this stuff.
The Podesta emails.
Like all these different things. So they drag you, they persuade you into believing by the end of it that what they're telling you is totally plausible, just as plausible as Operation Paperclip and the Gulf of Tonkin and all that stuff.
And any documentary could do that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And documentary should do that.
Can turn you vegan. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, exactly. And that's what a good documentary does. They persuade you into believing what it is that they believe is true.
Yeah.
And they want you to learn this, right?
Well, and I think part of the way that, and this part I do have to look more into, but part of the way that I think they legitimized what you're talking about is, in the end, the connection between all of these famous actors and just political people to Marina Abramovich, and Marina Abramovich connections to John Podesta, and their connection also, not just government and media, right? And the Satanism religion aspect, I don't think is necessarily important, because the end result is what matters to me, is that children are being trafficked and raped. That's what matters, right? Yeah. I don't care if it's religious based or whatever it's based in, but this, I think, if true, helps tie those things together with their connection with Anton LaVey and Michael Aquino, the starters, the originators of the Church of Satan in LA, you know, and their connections with governmental figures, actors, Hollywood figures, like those things, tie some things together. And as far as what we know with Alex Jones, fucking Moloch, Bohemian Grove, like there are 100% politicians, famous people, rich people involved in weird, backwards, occult shit, and that they're like doing fake rituals, quote unquote, real rich, whatever, you know.
Yeah. That goes into something that I have been researching lately, and we have the same barber, right?
Yeah.
Paul?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he put me on.
Shout out, Paul.
He put me on, Swell Blended. He put me on.
I'm going to see him on Friday.
This guy, Aleister Crowley. Have you ever heard of Aleister Crowley? The wickedest man to ever live or whatever.
Like the OG of the Church of Satan.
But he also practiced, you know, at that time, it was a shifting of an age, and he was practicing expanding his consciousness. He did things like peyote, which is just a natural source of DMT.
Yeah, he did all kinds of shit.
And he did do like some of the breakthrough things in consciousness now, like people still do today. But he also did, they say, practice sexual magic with a K, MAGICK. And, you know, what happened is towards the end of his life, based off what I've learned about him, he was in France, had a friend who was practicing magic with sexual magic. She had a friend that lived in the United States who came, visited, they practiced magic together, and he did some dark shit. Like, he was known to, like, do human sacrifice,
killing people and shit.
Like that. And practiced magic with these two girls. That girl went back to the United States. She was married. 8 months later, she has a baby. That baby, her baby, has a child, George Bush Sr., who, when you say, you know, that Reagan-Bush administration, that shit kind of connects to me, where like in some satanic ancient ritual occult shit, which
and I would have to
the occultist of the fucking time.
I would have to look into that.
Definitely look into Aleister Crowley.
Not that I don't believe you, but no. Just before I'm like, this is the, you know.
No. When I heard that, I definitely looked into it, and there's no record. They'll say that it was the child of her husband. But because she was married at the time.
Oh yeah, okay.
But she went to go, so they say, practice magic with Aleister Crowley.
Okay.
And they practiced sexual magic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting
shit, right? That's some interesting shit.
Yeah,
and it led me down
and like I said,
a lot of different ways, man.
I'm not, just for your comfort, I'm not at all saying I don't believe you.
No. But
for
and I told you, you know, I'm gonna
their comfort,
I'm gonna reach some Eddie Bravo shit.
I'm gonna.
I'm reaching. Okay.
No, I think that's really interesting.
It's very interesting when I look at that and you think about if the child pedophilia ring is driven by occultist Satan rituals, then why wouldn't it be from Aleister Crowley himself?
So where
nothing says it can't be.
Yeah, no.
Again, but nothing says that means anything
it's just,
at all.
Where are you at with this?
To look into.
With this thing as a whole, Offie?
As a whole, I would say that the child sex trafficking is probably more or less guaranteed that it's definitely happening. I think there are a lot of suspect ties to whether it's a giant ring of motherfuckers in the government and rich and powerful. I mean, it seems to be that.
And if it is, it started a long time ago.
Certainly could be, right? I mean, there's a lot of weird stuff around it. There's a lot of kids that go missing every year. But as far as this occult, satanistic, ritualistic stuff, kind of essentially running all of our government, having all these nefarious ideas to transform the country into being what they are, which is usually what that Pizzagate stuff devolves into.
Right.
Exactly.
I don't put any weight into that.
And I don't, and that's the stuff that I'm not convinced about all of this. I think as far as the media stuff, there is a lot of super weird shit that
Project Veritas
is just put out in the media, you know? And I followed, just to, keep my ear on it, I followed a whole fuckload of, 4 QAnon accounts, just to, see what they got. And they're pulling clips. They talked about Walt Disney and, the land that he built Walt Disney on, procured by the federal government, And I'm sure there's a rhyme or reason for it. It is what it is. Who doesn't fucking love Walt Disney World, right? But pulling clips from all these Disney movies and shit of just weird shit, I saw one from fucking Pinocchio the other day of, this old man paying a fox and a dog to find fucking kids for him, and that's who steals Pinocchio because he wants to take a bunch of kids to Pleasure Island. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Totally written in a totally different time. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not that's proof. That's a fucking weird thing to say at any time.
Yeah.
That's a weird thing to say that you're trying to buy some kids to take them to Pleasure Island. That's a fucking weird thing to write into a kid's movie. You know?
Super weird.
You ever listen to JBP break down Pinocchio?
No.
Highly suggest you do that because he takes you in a totally different direction about what that kind of stuff means.
Yeah. And so,
which could go a lot of different
ways. Like I said, I'm not at all saying that's proof that this is happening. Yeah. But shit like that, and then I also thought it was interesting that as this Ghislaine Maxwell stuff is happening, they're like, oh my God, all these documents are going to come out. Twitter takes down some 20,000 QAnon accounts.
Yeah,
right?
I've seen that shit.
Just torches them.
Jesus
QAnon,
Christ.
for you who don't know, is widely regarded as a conspiracy theory organization, largely because this is the type of shit that they talk about, right? And the accounts that I followed would sometimes share the Pinocchio clip about, look at, it's here, this is the type of shit. Sometimes they're talking about different levels of consciousness and changing time and space and sound vibrating, whatever. So it's not just conspiracy theory, governmental stuff. They're also talking about larger scientific ideals that they're the government hiding it,
hacking type stuff,
right?
Too, right,
right. It's not all just conspiracy theory shit, right? They're in OAN got into big trouble for saying that QAnon is a widely accepted ideology, and I'm well, it kind of is because they had fucking tens and hundreds of thousands of people following their shit. You know, that's not to say that it's a legitimate ideology to hold, but it's a widely accepted ideology by many people.
It's no difference than SJW.
And I'd hate to defend OAN, but I think that it was a wording thing on their part, and the whole media is look what the fuck they just said about QAnon, and it's well. But if you prior to them, all those accounts being taken down, if you would have counted up all those followers, millions of people following those accounts to consume that content. So, again, I'm not saying that it's a healthy ideology to live your whole life through, but it is a widely accepted one by people who consume that shit. So,
and if anything about all of this that we've been talking about, if this hasn't driven you to just look at things that people tell you now with a little bit of skepticism, try to not totally believe everything you're fed. Just rationally think about what is being said, think about the implications of that, and whether or not that doesn't necessarily make sense. Maybe I should look at that. Right. Maybe I should kind of whatever. Don't just accept it as fact, whether it's coming from OAN, whether it's coming from the QAnon Twitterverse, whatever it is. You should always be skeptical about things that, how would I put that? Not that you don't believe, but that seem unbelievable.
Yeah.
Right. Be skeptical about those, but then look into them.
And the reason that I implore so much regular people to think about this, not necessarily the larger implications, although I do, like you said, think it's something that you should be open to. But when we're talking about things like To Catch a Predator and Operation Underground Railroad, it's not just Jeffrey Epstein and young girls deciding, to get wrapped up or, getting wrapped up and stuff and doing whatever. Like, there are people's children that are randomly abducted and raped by just grown men and women around this country because they are fucked up in the head. Yep. Operation Underground Railroad, you can follow them on Facebook. They're consistently posting videos of underground operations they're doing, and they're like, we expected 8 people here, 30 people showed up. For, online ads where they think they're going to show up and see a kid that they can have sex with. Yeah. 30 people in one night in a town that are all showing up for the same thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, this shit is fucking real. You know? And regardless of whether or not you think that it's your politician or the fucking dude down the street, people are picking up kids and selling them and shit.
There is a serious problem.
And I'm all for freedom and shit, man, and I like...
But and that's a line.
And they're,
fucking line.
And no, I mean, like for children, like for them to be able to run around and like ride bikes and shit. I'm all for like, in my day, we just had to be home by midnight, but your fucking kids are being scooped up.
Riding bikes all the time.
I was walking home at 2 a.m. I was fucking 15 years old walking home from across Bremerton and shit.
I was in 6th grade sneaking out at 2
Motherfuckers get scooped up, dog. Like that's...
It happens.
Dangerous.
Need to understand the reality of what's going on, And this area has a horrible, horrible track record with human trafficking. Horrible. And I'm not telling you to go and, look up your neighborhood on pedophilia.com or whatever. There's a bunch of people in this area that are trying to get down with children. And you need to just be aware of what's going on and fucking watch your kids and watch your family and don't write off the things that you're seeing that, your crazy brother-in-law, you're like, this fucking guy, he's always spouting off, Take a second. Ask some questions, right? And I want to be so adamant because we've been doing this for 2 years now. You said you've learned X amount of things from us, We're not here to push conspiracy theories, to just say crazy shit and freak people out. I want people to be truly aware that over half of the stuff we just talked about is legitimate. It's factual. It's verifiable. This is happening. Like,
if that over 400,000 children number last year doesn't freak you out in some way and make you... It doesn't mean that it's all of this stuff that we've talked about is actually connected under one grand conspiracy. But there is a massive amount of kids that go missing every year, and a certain fraction of them are going to be... involved in this sex trafficking shit because it is anecdotal cases all over the place of people getting snatched up. Cops, the fucking New York Times. Remember when they did that series about child? What was the term they used? They were talking about the rampant child porn on the internet and shit.
Oh, yes.
And, it was child sexual...
sexual media or sexual content, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, that shit is pervasive
millions
everywhere.
And millions of images of literal babies. Like, from babies to 17 years old.
So it's impossible to say that it does not exist.
Yeah.
And it is... And if one case of it exists, that's far too fucking many.
Yeah, and
there's a hell of a lot more than just one.
Yeah.
I'm not telling you that you shouldn't have fun and do things with your family. I'm going to keep doing stuff with my family. I'm going to allow my son to have freedoms, but be vigilant and without scaring your children, make sure that they understand that things can happen. I don't know. My kid's only 1.5, so I don't know yet how to address that. I'm not trying to tell anyone how to be a parent. I can't tell you how to address that with your kid. I haven't had to figure that out yet. I'm just like waking up to this idea of its pervasiveness. So,
I think at the end of the
it's
day,
something that people and children who are mature enough need to be aware of what's happening, and the capability, potential. Because I'm not don't show your kids these videos that we just watched because they'll fucking piss their pants. But just
it's kind of comes down to the old stuff, like you never take candy from a stranger. Don't talk to strangers. Like you got to teach your kids to be smart, but you can't just keep them inside, away from the world.
Like I said, we have a lot of attempted stuff in this area. You're reading about stuff all the time of like guys pulling over trying to pick kids up. Or people taking pictures of kids. Like that type of stuff happens all the time here.
Yeah, kids out
all the time.
Like near Bremerton, there was like.
Oh yeah,
the girl, they got away or some shit.
Yeah.
The girl's like was being dragged into a fucking
shit like that happens.
And I see it all the time, missing kids.
And so just be careful. Yeah. Just watch your families. You should, consider buying a gun and learning how to use it safely.
And also,
I would love to take you shooting anytime you want to go, man.
They take the kids and they fucking use their blood.
Yeah, there's deeper shit, of like Macaulay Culkin interviews of like shoes made of kids and shit. And Macaulay Culkin's into some deep shit, so who fucking knows, know? But there are anecdotal stories of even darker shit than what we have talked about, that is potentially true, but is unverifiable. We're going to have you on again soon, and we're going to get deeper into that shit.
I want to have a whole conspiracy show.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to do, too.
So much fun.
I know. Yeah. I think I misled him a little bit into thinking that's what this was going to be, because I intended for this to be a larger portion of the show, but as always fucking happens on this show.
We draw on.
I think that we just like to trick people into coming on more than once,
Absolutely.
Like, well, you thought you were going to talk about this, but gotcha, bitch.
Next time.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Do you have anything else that you want to say on this topic or anything else?
No.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I didn't pay attention to the timestamp we started, but we got to be pushing 3+ again.
Yeah, we're banging. We're out here.
We out here.
Well,
Well, actually, there's one thing I wanted to say.
What's up?
Going back to, Aleister Crowley, the shifting of the age.
Yes.
How the Mayan calendar predicted the end of the world in 2012.
2012.
Back in 2012, supposedly it was a change of the age into Aquarius.
Mm-hmm.
But that's on the Gregorian calendar. If you look at the Ethiopian calendar, we're in 2012 in the Ethiopian calendar.
This year right now?
Right now, yeah.
2020
is the shift of the age, which means, they're pushing all this fear, this coronavirus, the protests, they want a civil war to suppress that.
Or the karmic powers of the universe decided, like, it's over, guys. We're trying again.
Now they're even, like, aliens.
Yeah.
Aliens now.
Double confirmed.
Oh,
and
exactly.
I showed that to Jordan. I showed it to my wife, who's one of, like, even more reasonable than me, She's like, you literally cannot convince me that's not a cover-up. She's like, Ghislaine Maxwell's in jail. She's like, all this stuff is happening. She's like, you literally, no one on the planet could convince me that is not an attempt to distract us from what the fuck is going on right now. She's like, there's no way. Yes.
Not that I don't think aliens are real, because
certainly. Yeah.
Are.
No,
but
she
if
does.
This is not a bone to distract you from something that would even be more catastrophic to be taken down than aliens. They're like, all right, give them something. Like, give them something to look at.
Just
like,
give them
Will
something.
and Jada are not distracting anymore. We need something. Give them the goddamn aliens. And here we are talking about those fucking aliens. And not those children that are being raped. Thank you guys for talking about that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I want to see an alien.
I think more people need to.
So if you could see an alien, would you? But they just have to fucking like impregnate you, and you'd be like the first.
If that's the condition, no. If that's the condition, I'm not interested.
First pregnant man
I don't know what's going to happen. It might blast out of my chest like a xenomorph. I don't want anything to do. Yeah, no, I don't want anything to do with having to be impregnated with the first alien. If that's the condition, I would.
Let's go with that.
I don't even know that
you have 6 alien babies at once.
I don't even know if someone said to me, you can meet the first alien, but I can't promise you what's going to happen. I would be like, no. I'm not interested. I don't know. The potential for instant death is way too high. Like, with an alien, there's way more unknown stuff than known stuff. And so there is way more things that could instantly kill me or kill me 20 years from now than things that
Or he just starts talking to you without talking.
Yeah, so...
All right, I quit.
I gotta get out of here.
Yeah, there's only so many things that I would be okay with happening in that experience.
Oh, yeah.
Way more stuff that I'd be like, no. Nope, not okay with that. Not okay with that. Not okay with that. But
that's
would
funny.
you, if you're going to be impregnated with an alien, would you do it?
I'd have to see what the alien looked like first.
Might have to be one of the
Good
Star
looking
Wars
aliens,
you know.
Does he look like he got some good genes? Maybe he can be the first alien in the NFL.
Is it going to add to the gene pool? Or is it going to take
Yeah,
away?
what are we doing
You
here?
have to take care of the alien?
Yeah, it'd be my alien baby.
You watch Rick and Morty?
Not really.
Oh, there's an episode of Rick and Morty where he's like, Morty's fucking this sex robot they found on another planet, and then like an alien comes out of it, and he like raises, and it's super aggressive and really big and grows up really fast and shit, and he's scared of like what's gonna happen, so he tells it that like the air outside is poisonous, and like you can't leave the house or else you're gonna die, and gets really pissed off one day and just like finally leaves, and so get into this whole thing and ends up like writing a book, and like it's
so wild.
you should check it out. It's pretty legit. Yeah,
My father kept me locked in a house for 12 years or something,
Yeah.
like my whole life.
Have you guys seen that show Midnight Gospel on Netflix with Duncan Trussell?
I have not
No.
yet. No.
So basically, the show is just
hella
his,
trippy.
his podcast show put into this cartoon,
yeah.
and there's some little ad libs here and there where they're adding in for the story, but basically every single episode is he's in a simulation and he can go into any world, but every single world is in some type of apocalypse, and he interviews someone in that world.
really.
And then that podcast interview is that guy in the world. It's fucking crazy. It's
That's
trippy.
so dope.
But it's like Rick and Morty style cartoon.
We're gonna
Yeah.
have to check that
He
out.
talked about it on his last Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
So, but
They
I
were
still haven't seen it
higher
yet.
than all balls
Yeah.
on the last one.
Yeah,
I was
they
having
were.
trouble
When he was in the
tracking.
ghillie suit?
Yes,
Yeah.
the whole episode in a ghillie suit.
Yep.
I was having a hard time even tracking what they were talking about. I was like,
So
"What
weird.
the
But Duncan
fuck?"
Trussell's talks about Aleister Crowley and the magic shit, dude.
Yeah,
all
he's
that
all
shit.
up into that.
He's done some episode of Drunk History too. You ever watch Drunk History?
Oh
I've listened to it a couple times, not really though.
It's great. He does one about Edgar Allan Poe. It's fantastic.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, it's great. So, with that, we can get out of you. So you,
Yeah, I forgot to
What?
say happy birthday to my brother-in-law.
oh,
Yeah, it'll be like 2 days after this comes out. So happy birthday to Chico.
you.
there we go.
Boom.
Happy birthday, Doug.
Happy birthday.
You have a stream tonight, correct? At 8:00. Oh, well, this is going to come out on
Possibly.
Monday,
We'll see.
but
Yeah, right.
there was a stream that happened when you're going to get this. So go to the Twitch
The VOD will be
at
there.
BG3EZUS.
Mhm.
Boom.
All right, there you go. That's the Twitch. It's also the Instagram. That's the Twitter. He said he doesn't use Facebook, so fuck it. We're going to tag him in all this shit anyway.
Fuck Facebook.
Yeah, I also, fuck Facebook. Anyway,
Mark Zuckerberg, by the way, he's a reptile.
Reptilian Elite.
He is a reptile.
And I think we should end it right there. 'Cause
Yeah.
that's perfect. We'll talk about that next time you come on.
Yes.
Because I want to hear about how I think he's a robot, but
Yeah.
I'll take lizard personally.
But he drank a lot of water, an awful lot of water to be a robot.
That's true.
That's true.
Yep. We are going to find, I love it. We're going to talk about all this next time. Yeah, and a lot of it on our social media. I'm at Salt of the Street on Twitter and at alpaca_Don on Instagram, and Colin is at Big Bird Offie on both those things. Salt of the Streets on Instagram, Salt of the Streets on Facebook, YouTube at Salt of the Streets, saltofthestreets.com, all of that stuff, the website. It's crazy. All of it's there. With that, let me grab a fucking line here. You don't think I know what my wife weighs in dead animals?
Are we talking shrews or horses?
At least 2 German Shepherds, half a Shih Tzu.
That's not very nice to say, homie.